The Nigeria-British Chamber of Commerce (Nbcc), in collaboration with FIABCI-Nigeria, presents Real Estate Outlook 2024. Theme: Looking Ahead, Gauging Opportunities. Special guest of honor: Barrister Barakat Odunuga Bakare, Special Advisor, Housing, Lagos State Government. Guest speaker: Dr. Biodun Adedipe, Founder Consultant, BAA Limited. Speakers: Yemi Ito, Founder CEO, Ecom Nigeria Limited. Paul Onwanibe, Group CEO of Landmark Africa Group. Moderator: Bidemi Fadayomi, Executive Director, Development and Projects, UPDC PLC. Host: Ray Atele, FRPA, President and Chairman of Council, NBCC. Date: Monday, 12th February 2024. Time is 10 a.m. prompt. Venue: Nbcc Plaza, Olubunmi Owa Street, off Admiralty Way, Lekki Phase 1, Lagos, Nigeria. For registration, go to the link below.
Wondered about NMRC and how refinancing works? At the Nigeria Mortgage Refinance Company, NMRC, we understand that every family has a dream to live in their own home. We also recognize that this aspiration can be costly, particularly for those that work and live in Nigeria's city centers and suburbs. A reliable and convenient option when buying a home is to get housing loans from banks. Before the emergence of NMRC, most banks depended on their short-term deposits for their mortgage lending activities. Due to the short-term nature of these loans, the monthly payments were high, with short average tenors of 5 years for mortgage loans. The NMRC was established to rectify this situation by providing long-term loans and supporting the liquidity of mortgage lenders in Nigeria through mortgage refinance. And this is how it works. Let's say you are ready to buy a home and you applied to a mortgage lending bank for a loan. If you meet the loan requirements, the bank will approve your mortgage loan application. Once you buy a home, the mortgage bank can either hold the loan on its books till you're done paying back, or the bank can sell it in the secondary mortgage market. This is where NMRC comes in. NMRC purchases loans that mortgage lending banks create after a performance period that evaluates the applicant's loan repayment patterns for risk and suitability. NMRC issues securities that are backed by these mortgages and sells the same to capital market investors. By doing this, NMRC ensures mortgage lenders have access to more funds, create new mortgages, and increase lending to new borrowers. NMRC keeps long-term funding flowing and available by linking the housing market to the capital market through mortgage refinance.
Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome us to this program, Real Estate Outlook 2024, on behalf of the Construction and Real Estate Group of the Nigerian-British Chamber of Commerce. Just before we go on with these proceedings, you know, the whole country and the corporate world was thrown into serious mourning with the loss of distinguished members of the business community over the weekend. We lost our friend, Herbert Wigwe. We lost Bimbo Ogunbanjo. Also, unfortunately, in this chamber, we lost the COO of our premium member, Alaro City, Ms. Oye Adeleke. So I'd like to request us to just stand up and we observe 1 minute of silence. May their souls rest in perfect peace. Thank you very much for doing that. Then we'll go on to the program right away, and I'm going to invite our member in the Construction and Real Estate Group, Yomi Amusa, who will be coordinating the program. Yomi, please, you're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. Once again, my name is Yomi Amusa, and I'm a member of the Nbcc Construction and Real Estate Group. And I'm pleased to welcome you all this morning, both physically as well as those who are joining us virtually to this event, the Nbcc and FIABCI-Nigeria Real Estate Economic Outlook 2024, themed Looking Ahead, Gauging Opportunities. I'm particularly delighted to see our council and EXCO members, as well as our distinguished speakers and all our esteemed guests here present. I would like to please ask that you please rise with me as we observe the national anthems of both Nigeria and Britain. Thank you. You may please be seated. Before we begin, please allow me to state some housekeeping guidelines just to ensure that we have a very smooth event. For our physical attendees, questions will be answered during the Q&A session only. If you'd like to ask a question, please raise your hands and a microphone will be brought to you during the Q&A session. For those who are joining us virtually, if the volume is too low, kindly check your system volume first, and hopefully that will resolve the issue. And the event is being recorded and will be available live on our YouTube channel as well, the Nigerian-British Chamber of Commerce, Nbcc. To comment and have discussions, please use the chat icon on the platforms, and obviously submit your questions via the Q&A. Only these will be answered during the question and answer session as well. Thank you for listening. On this note, please join me as we welcome our President and Chairman of Council, Mr. Ray Ateli, FRPA, to give his welcome address. Please put your hands together as we welcome Mr. President.
Thank you. I don't have a speech prepared for this, but I have a few notes that I would like to share with us. On that note, I commence. Welcome the Deputy President, Council members, distinguished guests, representatives of our partners, FIABCI-Nigeria. We welcome you all to the Nbcc Plaza. It's our pleasure to continue with this relationship, and we hope that the knowledge shared in this room will help to galvanize investment in the area of the real estate. A lot has been said about this sector. And when you talk about Nigeria, I've heard comments about investors living in droves from this country. But there are opportunities. And so the Nbcc and FIABCI thought it wise to share those opportunities that we have in this country, because there are opportunities. And when we do, perhaps, it will stem the tide of people leaving, investors leaving, and they will start to see opportunities where they probably didn't know it before now. Nigeria is a country of 220 million individuals. That's quite large. And if you look at the structure of our population, you will observe that we have a very large youth population. What that means is that we have loads of young people who need housing, whether it's commercial housing or residential housing. The issue oftentimes is that they don't have the capacity to partake. You invest, you develop, and then where are the off-takers? If they are not there in large numbers, the investment could go awry. And that may have been the challenge of some of participants this morning. So what do? Some years back, the buzzword was affordable housing, how to make housing affordable. But we know the cost of input today. How do you define affordability? There is no cement for the poor. Everything, all the inputs for construction come from the same market. And so as a result of that, I would rather we not talk about affordable housing, but talk about how to provide these things and create the enabling environment for those who want to have them, to be able to get them. Consumer credit, the banking sector has to be part of this discussion so that they too can look at how they can fill some of the gaps, because it takes two, perhaps three to tango here. You have those who need the housing, you have those who are providing at great cost and risk the housing, and then you have those who are supposed to benefit, but they can't get them for free. You need to put your money in, and you haven't got the money because savings are short and the houses are, in quote, expensive. What it means is that there has to be another discussion to find how all of those contending forces can realign and work together. So I thank you for coming this morning, and I look forward to sharing in the experience of our experts. They are going to tell us a number of things, and I'm looking forward to learning some of those things that they will share with us on the opportunities, because perhaps there are some that we are not so aware of. Last year's edition, there was the talk about warehouses as a new area where you could invest. A lot of warehousing opportunities along the Ibadan Expressway. Perhaps we're going to hear something new this year. I'm not sure what it's going to be, but I'm curious. So once again, thank you for your time, and let's enjoy our breakfast.
Thank you very much. Please put your hands together for our president once again for helping us set the tone for today's event. Thank you, sir. Very quickly, we move on to, we'll be receiving the opening remarks, a video from the world president of FIABCI, Mr. Budiasa Sastrawinata. And if the video is ready, please, let's play the welcome address from our partners at FIABCI.
President of FIABCI Africa and Near East Regional Committee, Adele Adeniji, President of FIABCI-Nigeria, Gladstone Opara, chapter leadership and officers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Eku Aaro and greetings to all of you. I'm delighted to share a few words with you today, even though the circumstances prevent me from being there in person for this annual collaborative event between FIABCI-Nigeria and the Nigerian-British Chamber of Commerce in the vibrant city of Lagos. First and foremost, allow me to extend my heartfelt congratulations to both FIABCI-Nigeria and the Nigerian-British Chamber of Commerce for fostering a tremendously successful collaboration. Since its inception just last year, this partnership has opened up remarkable opportunities for both organizations, paving the way for growth and innovation in the real estate sector. At this time, I would like to express my gratitude to Gladstone Opara, the President of FIABCI-Nigeria, for extending his kind invitation for me to address this distinguished audience. Additionally, I commend Adele Adeniji, the immediate past President of FIABCI-Nigeria, for his exceptional coordination in hosting this event. It is through the dedication and hard work of leaders like Gladstone and Adele that such collaboration flourish. The theme for this year's annual Real Estate Outlook event, Looking Ahead, Gauging Opportunities, reflects a forward-thinking approach that aligns with the dynamic nature of the real estate industry. It is imperative for us to anticipate and capitalize on emerging opportunities, and I'm confident that this event will provide valuable insights in that regard. The collaboration with the Nigerian-British Chamber of Commerce reflects the trust and respect FIABCI has earned as an organization. The Nbcc, backed by the crème de la crème of Nigeria's business world, stands as a revered and influential partner. So it comes as no surprise that FIABCI-Nigeria is committed to upholding its high status by showcasing the best personalities and talents within our organizations on occasions like this. As we navigate the ever-evolving landscape of the real estate industry, let us continue to foster collaboration, innovation, and excellence. Together, we can leverage our collective strengths to seize the myriad opportunities that lie ahead. I extend my best wishes for a successful and enriching event. I truly hope the discussion and insights shared during this collaboration contribute to the growth and prosperity of the real estate sector in Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's put our hands together for that welcome address and the remarks from our partners at FIABCI. Just before we progress to the next item, which will be a special guest address, I'd like to acknowledge the presence of quite a few of our special guests here today. Starting off, obviously, with the representative of the Lagos State Governor in the person of Special Advisor to the Governor on Housing, Barrister Barakat Adunuga Bakari, who will be speaking to us shortly. I'd like us to put our hands together. She'll be joining us virtually. Also, in no particular order, I'd like us to also welcome and acknowledge our lead speaker, Dr. Biodun Adedikpe, who is the founder and chief consultant of B. Adedikpe Associates Limited. Let's put our hands together for him as well. Would also like to acknowledge quite a few of our panelists who will be calling up at a later time over the course of the event, in the persons of Mr. Paul Onwanibe, the Group CEO of Landmark Africa Group. Let's please put our hands together as we acknowledge his presence. We also have Mr. Yemi Idowu, founder, CEO of Aircom Nigeria Limited, also here present. Please put your hands together. Also, we have Mrs. Bidemi Fadayomi, Executive Director, Development and Projects, UPDC PLC, who is also here. Please put your hands together for her. She at some point we called up to also help with our panel discussions. Also, I'd like us to acknowledge all members of council and especially our Deputy President in the person of Prince Olasore, also here present. Please put your hands together as we acknowledge all council members and all ESCO members here present. We'd like now to progress to receive the special guest address from Barrister Barakat Odunuga Bakare, the special advisor to the Lagos State Governor on housing. If we're ready with the video, I think we can go ahead. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I apologize that I can't be there in person because it's due to some unforeseen circumstances that are more than what I can excuse myself from. So it is a great pleasure to be invited as a special guest of honor to this year's Real Estate Outlook 2024 theme, Looking Ahead, Forging Opportunities, organized by the Nigerian-British Chamber of Commerce, Nbcc. I'd like to acknowledge Mr. Ray Attili and also thank all the council members and ESCO members of the Nigerian-British Chamber of Commerce. As the special advisor to Lagos State Governor on housing, I will limit my address to real estate regulations in Lagos State because I believe that a well-regulated real estate sector will create abundant opportunities for stakeholders in the build sector and also foster a collaboration between the private and public sector to provide affordable housing to the people of Lagos State. The housing sector under the present administration in Lagos State falls on the fourth pillar of the Themes Plus agenda, which is making Lagos a 21st century economy with the provision of affordable home ownership schemes for residents of the state. As a way of strengthening real estate practice in Lagos State, the state government established the Lagos State Real Estate Regulatory Authority, LASRERA, as a regulatory agency under the Ministry of Housing. LASRERA was established solely for the purpose of overseeing the activities of individuals and organizations operating in the real estate sector with the aim of addressing reported fraudulent practices within the sector. The agency mandates are backed by the review law signed by Governor Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu in February 2022. The law will help in regulating, sanitizing, and effectively monitoring the business activities of the real estate markets in Lagos State. The signing of this law makes it mandatory for any individual, organization engaging in real estate business to register with LASRERA for appropriate database collection. Our functions of LASRERA include, but not limited to, the following: issuance and renewal of permits licenses annually, investigate complaints and petitions against licensed and unlicensed real estate practitioners, property developers, and impose sanctions in accordance with the laws where necessary, elimination of unethical real estate business transactions in the sector, conduct trainings for those operating in the real estate sector in Lagos State. It is important to note that LASRERA, as a real estate regulator of the state government, has initiated collaborations with the federal government enforcement agencies so as to curb frequently reported cases of fraudulent practices in order to restore confidence, trust, and protect the interests of local and international investors for comprehensive monitoring and enforcement mechanisms in the sector. As a regulator of the state government, LASRERA investigated complaints, petitions forwarded by the public. So far, we have received over 1,577 petitions, and we have resolved 1,027. One of the many cases resolved by LASRERA recently is the alleged 40 million land scam that was made public through a viral video by one Mr. Kaide Oladipo about 2 weeks ago. who supposedly bought 20 plots of land in 2017 from a property company. Lasera is also prosecuting about 8 cases in the court at the moment. This sends a clear message to fraudulent practitioners in Lagos State that it will not be tolerated. Lasera ensures that only qualified real estate practitioners and professionals to operate in the industry so as to minimize risk of fraudulent practices and activities and safeguarding the interest of buyers and investors in line with the international best standards. Furthermore, Lasera actively engages in public awareness campaigns, educating citizens about their rights and responsibilities in real estate transactions by empowering individuals with knowledge through advocacy. Lasera helps them make informed decisions, reducing the likelihood of falling victim to fraudulent schemes. I want to use this medium to solicit for the cooperation of all relevant stakeholders here present today and in registration with the Lagos State Real Estate Regulatory Authority, that it is compulsory that you register Lasera for you to be able to practice real estate. In order to curb proliferations of fraudulent practices in the sector and also sanitize the sector in total. Let me emphasize that it has become an offense for any individual organization to engage in real estate business in Lagos State without registering with Lasera. Again, I implore real estate practitioners to comply with provisions of the state real estate law, just as I will urge investors and investees to always request for Lasera permits or visit the agency website. It's lasera.lagosstate.gov.ng before engaging in any property transactions in Lagos State. I wish us all a fruitful deliberations at this year's Real Estate 2024. Thank you very much for having me.
Let's please put our hands together once again for Barrister Barakat Odunuga Bakare, who has also just delivered a very, very important special guest address. As we progress, I would like us to then take the sponsors video advert from Afriland Properties very quickly. We'll also be taking a few more sponsors adverts, just as we await the arrival of our keynote, our lead speaker. I'd like to please request that we also take the sponsors video adverts for Refin Homes and LBIC.
Have you been looking for a reliable real estate company to help you achieve your home ownership dreams? Refined Homes Limited is here to help you. We are the first indigenous real estate company in Nigeria to be ISO certified, ensuring quality delivery of projects within agreed timeline. We have created various schemes to suit your needs. We offer flexible payment plans for home ownership, such as Flexi Home Owner, Own a Home, and Home Assurance Scheme, where you pay for your home with ease. To other services such as real estate advisory, land flip scheme, joint ventures, and Refined Edge, you have all you need for your dream home. As bespoke builders, we always build to our customer specifications. Contact us now to help you achieve your home ownership dream today. Have you been looking?
Thank you. Please, I stand corrected on the, I pronounce as reference, sorry, Refine Homes. Thank you so much. Also, please, would like to also take the sponsors adverts for MPF Property. Also, we'll be taking that for Night Frank, but I've been informed that that will be happening in person. So please, the representative from Night Frank, Mr. Larry Shunubi, should please be on standby. Immediately after the sponsors advert from MPF, you'll be coming up to give your 1 minute advert. Thank you. MPF Property.
In the Nigeria Police Force, duty meets dedication. Hence, we are not just safeguarding the nation, but we're also reshaping our foundations. Today, we showcase the commendable effort and leadership of the NPF in revolutionizing housing delivery, infrastructural development within the organization. The Nigeria Police Force recognizes the importance of providing its officers with not just a job, but also a home. The force has embarked on a series of groundbreaking construction projects through the establishment of the Nigerian Police Force Property Development and Construction Company Limited, NPF-PDCC, whose mandate it is to provide decent, sustainable and affordable housing for individuals of all walks of life, especially officers and men of the NPF, and the development of other infrastructural facilities. The Nigeria Police Force is not just building homes, it is creating a sense of community among its ranks and members of the public. The construction projects on housing delivery signify not just bricks and mortar, but a commitment to the well-being of those who ensure our safety every day. The Nigeria Police Force, safeguarding the nation, building a home, and securing a better tomorrow for those who stand on the front lines. Because when we invest in the protectors, we invest in the future. We call on well-meaning individuals to partner with the NPF through the NPF PDCC Limited to bring housing delivery to officers and men of the police as well as members of the public.
Thank you. Very quickly, let's also welcome to the podium very quickly our friends from Night Frank, who will be given a 1 minute address. Thank you.
Good morning. All existing protocols duly observed. I bring you warm greetings from my senior partner and CEO, Mr. Frank Okosu, who is unavoidably absent this morning. My name is Larry Shunubi. I head the Marketing and Corporate Communications Unit at Night Frank. Night Frank probably needs little or no introduction for most of us in this room. We've been around for over 125 years globally and close to 60 years in Nigeria. Across the globe, we have over 20,000 experts connecting our clients to their desired kind of properties. We're operating in over 50 territories and a lot of other things that I would want to talk about, but my 1 minute would not permit. In the last 1 year alone, we've carried out valuation reports on assets valued at over 3.5 trillion naira. We've connected over 100 clients to their desired properties, worth over 15 billion in terms of brokerage transactions. We manage a floor space in excess of 18,000 square meters in our facility management and property management business, and a whole lot. Night Frank is glad to partner with the Nbcc. It's a relationship that has been very good, and we hope it will continue to bear good fruit. And also with FIABCI, we're glad, and we hope that the conversation here will drive us even further. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Please let's put our hands together for all our sponsors and all our partners. We must obviously emphasize the fact that this would not have been possible without the partnerships that we continue to enjoy with great entities and persons. Please let's put our hands together one more time. It's also important to just mention and apologize. We're still expecting our lead speaker, Dr. Biodun Adedikpe, who will soon be here shortly. But in the interim, we would progress with the flow of the event. And I'd like us to welcome our very, very, very important partners with whom we've put this together, FIABCI. We'd like to please welcome Mr. Gladstone Okpara, the president of FIABCI, as he comes up to give the partner presentation. Let's put our hands together for our partners as he does come up. Thank you so much. Let's keep clapping until it comes up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our special guest, who is unavoidably absent, representing the Lagos State government, President of the Nigerian-British Chamber of Commerce, our speaker, who is not yet here, our panelists, ladies and gentlemen. It is with a joy and happiness and a deep sense of gratitude that I address you this morning on this occasion, which I will consider yet another successful, even before time, another successful real estate outlook 2024. We have come to assess the real estate situation in Nigeria for the past 1 year, and also analyze and measure available opportunities therefrom. I believe that the topic, the theme for this year's event, the sub-theme of gauging opportunities, is actually very apt for this business season. When you consider the level of uncertainties which has beset the business world, inconsistent government policies, a lack of political will to even implement the existing policies, insecurity, and even the main albatross of the problems, which is the unstable local currency. All these make up the challenges which have made it difficult for many businesses to draw up workable business plans for long terms. Well, I expect that, as usual, our experts today, yes, thanks to our main speaker who is around right now, I believe that they, as usual, they're going to do justice to the topic. They're going to do justice to what we expect them to do this morning. And they're going to unearth the different directions our real estate has trended since the past 1 year, its implications and the effect of such drifts, and the opportunities that we have to watch out for in the future. And I believe that the lessons that we are going to learn here today, just as it has aided us in the past, will be very useful to all the participants and their businesses, and provide us with the handy tools to navigate through this seemingly unfriendly business world. The real estate industry needs a reshaping. And that's why we are gathered here today. And I believe that by the end of our journey here today, we're going to have those tools handy, and we are going to come up better than we have ever been. On behalf of the board and members of the International Real Estate Federation, our ESCO, I must first of all thank the Nigerian-British Chamber of Commerce for being once again a very worthy partner in the organization of this noble event. And also extend my thanks to especially our sponsors listed out here, and Knight Frank, UPDC, Refined Homes, Mortgage Bankers, the Lagos State Building Society, Corporation, I would say, Landmark, Afriland, and I hope I've mentioned everybody's name. We want to thank them. Without them, it wouldn't have been easy for us to organize this event. I think all of you who in short distance, a short time, registered for this event. I want to thank all the participants that are here today. And I believe it, that just as we expect, none of you will be disappointed by the end of this journey. While we pray for an improved business climate for the next 1 year, we still promise to give the real estate industry a close marking. And we're sure that with the assistance of our experts, as usual, we're still going to come back here next year to unveil what and what we have observed, raise up the opportunities that will help our businesses to grow. Thank you all so much for gracing this occasion.
Thank you. Let's put our hands together once more for Mr. Gladstone Opara, President FIABCI, for that partner presentation. Thank you so much, sir. We will very quickly acknowledge the presence of our lead speaker today, Dr. Biodun Adedipe, who walked in just a few minutes ago. Welcome, sir. Thank you so much for coming. And then I think we'll just progress with his bio, as we will then be calling him up for the lead speaker presentation. Mr. Biodun Adedipe, PhD, FCIB, FIOD, FERP, FIMC, is the founder and chief consultant of B. Adedipe Associates Limited, BAA Consult. With over 4 decades of postgraduate work and professional experience that cuts across university teaching, investment banking, project finance, management, and financial consulting, as well as leadership in business and non-for-profit organizations, Biodun has had an illustrious career that took him through the University of Lagos Enterprise Consulting Group, the World Bank Africa Region, International Merchant Bank PLC, and First Monument Bank PLC. He received his doctorate degree in industrial economics, specializing in corporate finance, from the University of Lagos in 1989, and a BSc in economics first class from the University of Ife, now Obafemi Awolowo University, OAU, in 1980, and bagged several awards in the process, including Sir Adam Thompson Scholarship as visiting doctoral student to the University of Sussex, UK, in 1984. He's a member of several respected professional bodies, including the Institute of Directors Nigeria, Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria, the Nigeria Economic Society, and American Economic Association. Biodun's technical expertise is wide-ranging, covering corporate strategy, research and economic analysis, solving complex business problems, and assisting clients to execute business solutions in line with their corporate strategies. It sits on the board of some profit-seeking and non-for-profit organizations, and is actively involved in director development at the Chartered Institute of Directors of Nigeria, of which he is a fellow and council member. He has served in various capacities in government, including member of the Presidential Committee of Experts on the Redenomination of Naira, November 2008, also as a member of the Federal Government Committee of Experts on Expenditure Review between October 2010 to March 2011, and Senior Special Assistant to the President, Financial Sector Development in the Office of the Chief Economic Advisor, 2011. Biodun founded BAA Consults in February 1993, and he has been responsible for charting and managing the firm's strategy and activities since operations commenced in March of 1994. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together to welcome our esteemed speaker, Mr. Biodun, or Dr. rather, Biodun Adedipe.
Thank you so very much. Let me start by apologizing for coming late. It was a factor beyond my control. I took off for this event over 3 hours ago. But in the course of trying to play smarter than Google Maps, that was what got me into trouble. So I'm very sorry about that. So I stand on the existing protocols, which I'm sure had been well established, so that I can also stay within time and express my deep appreciation to be invited to do this. So I have an outline that sets on a premise, which of course again connects to the remarks I came in listening to the FIABCI leader in Nigeria. Happy to meet you here again today. Then we talk about what I described as the global socioeconomic dynamics, which of course we learned a very deep lesson about 2 years ago. In fact, just about now, February 2022, when Russia, invaded Ukraine. That was the description then. Russia invasion of Ukraine. Then that appellation changed from that to Russian war on Ukraine. And then later it became Russian-Ukrainian war. But now it is simply called Ukrainian war. So of course, several other issues that came thereafter. Then we come back home and look at Nigerian economy from two perspectives. One, the major policy shifts that came with the Tinubu administration. And then, of course, the developments that we should be paying attention to between then and this present moment. In context, I always like reminding professionals like us about one key thing in life, and that is we all make choices, but at the end of the day, our choices turn around and make us. Which means, of course, a reflection of why I came here late this morning, choices I made, right, in terms of the route to follow to get here. But putting it further in context is to remind ourselves about what is happening globally. And this is what I remind corporate leaders about, that to a corporate entity, agility is a key issue nowadays. And agility simply means the organization is in a position to always take account of changes in the external operating environment, recognizing that the new dynamic is the truism that we've always been used to, and that is change is inevitable, it's a constant. Now, the popularity of the term new normal that we are all became used to with the advent of COVID-19, and of course, it becoming, a pandemic in March 2020, we discovered that having passed that issue of new normal with the pandemic, the reality we face today is that every day you wake up, you need to prepare for the next normal. In which case, you are used to something now, you seem to have mastered it, but then something happens that throws you off balance. So in which case, must you wait until it throws you off balance or begin to form and develop a model, so to say, of the next normal and how you have to tinker your business model in that respect. Of course, the watchwords in the season we are in are three from my perspective. One is you want to be agile, and the second is you want to be resilient, and of course the third one is to be sustainable, which means if your organization will survive, grow, and become a relevant organization in the evolving world of business we are in, these three words must be at the forefront of your strategy and, of course, your business model as you continue to tinker with it. How do I build agility into my systems and processes? Now, when I use the word system, it actually represents four things. I call them 4 P's that make up a system. Now, the first of them are your policies. Then the second will be your procedures, the way you do things in your organization. The third connects you to your business. That's the one I call your economic engine. I refer to that as your business processes. Then the fourth is the most important when it comes to strategy execution. We call that your daily practices, which means what do your people do on a daily basis? So those four for me make up your systems. Now, digital transformation is centered around improving capabilities, improving efficiency, and of course, customer experience. Very also interesting, especially for us in Nigeria, in context of the Japa syndrome, that we must now not only be conscious of customer experience that we call CX, we must also be conscious about employee experience that we now call EX. So they must go together. Now, looking globally, therefore, this time last year, we're talking about 5 major disruptions to business world globally. And we said, okay, first of them is what you have mentioned, Russian-Ukrainian war, by which time we had done a year with that. So we saw how we discovered that Ukraine is systemic in the supply of grains to the global market. So when bread became more expensive here, I discovered that it was because there was disruption to the supply chains from Ukraine to the global market. But more importantly, we discovered that Ukraine accounted for 24.1% of the grains we consume in the world. So that sensitizes us to the fact that, so I can't just close my eyes and talk about the war taking place in Europe as too far away from here that it won't affect me. So we passed that. Then, of course, the lingering effect of the pandemic was the second, disruption. Third one is macroeconomic instability, following from interventions by governments directly in their fiscal operations and then through central banks and reserve banks in terms of what we call accommodative monetary policy. All of those brought so much liquidity into the economies and they triggered inflationary pressures that we had not seen around the world, in some countries for 30 years, in some others for 40 years. So that became a major, major problem. Then, of course, the issue of social divisiveness, which kept expanding. And my latest example is usually the one that happened in Brazil, where Bolsonaro lost the election and he said his mandate was stolen. His supporters went on rampage, but security forces were able to checkmate them. The man ran away from Brazil, came to Florida in the US. Of course, up until June 2023, it was fine. Then his visa expired. Now for the visa to be renewed, it created a spat between the Republicans and Democrats, social divisiveness. Republicans said, renew his visa. It's a type of our own Trump, okay? Democrats said, no, we'll renew his visa. Let him go back to Brazil and face the trouble he caused there. So eventually, visa not renewed. The man returned to Brazil 4 days ago, or maybe 3 days ago, Friday last week. Now they seized his passport. So a former president of Brazil, he can't go out of Brazil now because his passport was seized. So social divisiveness is playing its own part, different countries around the world. They're deepening and driven mostly by politicians. They're geopolitics, alignments here and there, all around the world, and of course, escalating troubles, concerns, and risks, not only to businesses, but even to livelihoods and assets. We thought we had mastered the disruptions. Then came August 2023. The Indian government announced that we are putting a restriction on the export of non-basmati rice, as well as sugar and a few other commodities. So when India took that step, the price of rice went up everywhere in the world, not just in Nigeria. And then in probing that, we discovered that India accounts for 40.1% of the rice we eat in the world. So systemic. So in which case, these disruptions, when they come, that's when we realize how interconnected the world has truly become. And then, of course, following that is BRICS. We call it now BRICS Plus, where about 55 countries applied to be members of the BRICS. And of course, 6 of them were pre-qualified to become bona fide members January 2024. But an interesting thing played out, which is not so reported in the media. This is my own interpretation now as an analyst. Out of the 6 countries, Argentina was one of them. But interestingly, Argentina is also in the kind of trouble Nigeria is currently. A combination of 2 things. Economy in trouble and then currency crisis. In fact, December 2023, inflation rate in Argentina was 211% in Argentina. So now, this is now my interpretation. It was not said in the media. Neither did the Argentina government put it out. Now, they were to become members of BRICS Plus January this year. And then IMF offered Argentina $4.4 billion. That's FX intervention. And so, to me, it appeared like if you pull out of BRICS Plus, we give you this money. If you don't pull out, you won't get this support. So your currency will remain in crisis. So very early this year, Argentina announced that it's no longer going ahead to join BRICS Plus. And then, of course, late 2023, got $4.4 billion US intervention to stabilize its currency. Now, all of these are also playing out around the world. And of course, the Israel-Hamas war. Coming back home to Nigeria, May 29, 2023, major policy shifts. I put them in 5. The first is fair subsidy removal, which we've been making so much noise about. But what I always tell business people is this. There are some things you have no control over. So you have a government of the day anywhere in the world. They come up with policies. For government, there are 3 P's also. There are policies, there are programs, and then there are projects. Where government run into trouble is whenever there's no alignment between those 3. So typically then, when we evaluate governments and what they are doing, we ask first about their policies, then what program do they have designed to implement those policies? And then out of those programs, what are the projects? Okay? So now, when you look at that, we all knew quite well that subsidy was going to kill Nigeria if we continue with it. $10 billion US annually that we spent on fair subsidy. But of course, we also knew quite well that our dependence on imported refined products was quite huge. If you look at that merchandise trade data, you'll find that to be about 39%. I will connect that shortly with what is happening in our FX market. Okay, so we spend about 39.1% of our imports connected to refined petroleum products. And of course, 100% imported. In which case, the way out for us is to refine crude oil locally here. I will connect that also shortly when I conclude. All right, so now what is playing out here is that out of a monthly import bill of about 1.88 trillion naira, 39% of that is used to import refined products. So, and if you import refined products, and this is the real big issue there, the price you and I pay at the pump head, the gas station, is accounted for by two main elements: the cost of the product itself, and then what you now deal with in terms of the exchange value of your currency. The value of the naira dollar, that's exchange rate, plus the cost of the products accounts for 85% of what you and I pay at the pump head. So in which case, if there's anything that we change there, then it means it has to be first and foremost to eliminate the impact of the exchange rate on that cost. And then secondly, what kind of reduction can happen to that cost if we refine locally. So that is why that becomes very important. Now, of course, it made two things happen majorly. Cost of living went up, cost of doing business went up. Then response, how did your company respond to that? And I will drop this and move on. Now, I always tell business leaders that the best cost management strategy is to grow your income. And the idea is very simple. There's a limit to which you can cut costs. And when you get to that extreme, the only other direction to look is, how do I grow income? So when you are in an inflationary environment as we are in Nigeria today, that should become your primary objective. How do I grow the business? Second major shift, of course, is unified exchange rates. As a professional economist, I've seen this over decades in Nigeria. And I've come to a position on that I don't think it is, a policy that will work for Nigeria. And my reasons are very simple. First is that it has many appellations, just like the Russian-Ukrainian war I mentioned earlier. You call it devaluation at an instance. This time, it is unified. In other countries, they call it correction. Different appellations. But the bottom line is that if we take the theoretical concept of devaluation, it is a policy you adopt in order to make your exports cheaper, and so you can sell more to the rest of the world and generate a lot more foreign earnings. So the question now will be, what do we export? So again, I like to refer to data. When you check our trade data from January to September 2023, latest available, you find that 89.3% of our exports in terms of merchandise was hydrocarbons. And that is crude oil, condensate, associated gas. Now on crude oil, which is the main issue there, you have no control over the quantity you sell. You are a member of OPEC, so you have allocation. And you have no control over the price at which you sell. You are a price taker in the international oil market. Which means the two elements that can drive that volume, you have no control over them. So you are a price taker and also you are a volume taker. So if 89% then of what you export, you have no control over the volume and the price at which you sell, it means then that there's a limit to the benefit you derive from devaluation. That's on the one side. The second side comes from something I shared with them at the Central Bank in November 2002. I was invited as a guest speaker to replace a failed invitee from IMF at the time. And they asked me, what should Central Bank of Nigeria focus on? Should they focus on exchange rate, inflation rate, or interest rate? Then central banks around the world had not started inflation targeting. Okay? And I said, let's look at the history and the data. So when you look at the data and history, there's only one out of those macroeconomic prices that everything adjusts to in Nigeria. And I used data to prove it. Then it was the older Baba Sanusi Joseph that was the governor of the CBN. And I remember telling him when I was invited to the podium at Transcorp meeting, I said, sir, as the sitting central bank governor, if this economy works, President Obasanjo will take the credit. But if it doesn't work, as the CBN governor, you will take the blame. Do you agree, sir? I said, because if you don't agree, I don't need to present my paper here. So with his, you can start to smile. The old man smiled. I said, you agree with me? I said, okay, fine. Now, if you look at exchange rate in our own history, number one, we began being a net importer of non-oil goods and services. Then when our refineries collapsed and we started importing all the refined products we consume, we became now a net importer of everything, both oil and non-oil. But the other side to it is that we're a country that our propensity to consume imported goods is very high. Of course, you can interpret that in several different dimensions. Some will say, oh, we import a lot, like I said earlier on. Or some will say, no, we don't import enough, because when you compare our import to GDP or import to population, we are behind Kenya, we are behind Ghana, behind Egypt, behind Morocco. And I say, look, for me, it's all dubious analysis. That's what we call it in economics. Dubious analysis means you are playing with numbers. If you go to the area of ratios, you are dealing with two elements, the numerator and the denominator. If any of them change, the ratio will change. So, but when you now compare us with them, you've forgotten the fact that Nigeria's population is the largest in Africa, number 6 in the world, by the way. So the moment you use that population figure to divide whatever figure you have a numerator, we get a ratio so small relative to any other African country you want to compare with. So it then means the question should be, what do we import? And then what do we export? That nexus. That's where the problem is. We consume, that is import, what we don't produce. Quite all right. Then we produce what we don't consume. Because largely, as I said, hydrocarbons, but we export because we don't refine locally. So now I will bring it all together. Of course, just mention the rest of them. My slides are quite detailed, but I won't talk to all of them. It's designed in a way that you take it away and you can interrogate the content. A bit rich in terms of data and interpretation. Then, of course, came the 43 items that were banned from the official FX window by the previous leadership of central bank, which was wrongly interpreted by many people as a ban on the export of those items. So for me, the CBN governor shouldn't have bothered even mentioning it at all. Because already exchange rate has been unified. So anywhere you go, whether official window or unofficial window, you get the same rate. So, but unfortunately, maybe before this is shared, I will add a table. There's a table we used to show the adverse effect of that announcement. You know, in finance, there's something we call announcement effect. Okay? Now, it shouldn't have been announced at all. Because while that ban was in place, like I said, misinterpreted, those who ordinarily would have loved to import rice, cement, and the rest of the items in there, they stood back, thinking that they were banned. But now when you announce that they are no longer banned, of course, people went into that space. So, and what that also means is that areas ordinarily that the price of, commodities would have remained stable, started also rising. Of course, the other ones are positive. Fiscal consolidation, which again is a beneficiary of the exchange rate differentials. When you see FAC allocations, growing significantly. In fact, on the front page of Business Day today, you see some write-up on that indeed, yes, exchange rate differentials beneficial. But what has been happening? We now see a lot more money going to the sub-nationals. And beyond their allocations, there has been twice release of funds by the federal government to the states for the purpose of infrastructure. And so what this also points to is that instead of looking at the central government, we should now be interrogating and questioning what subnationals are doing with ever more resources getting to their hands. Now, for the rest of my speech here, which will not take more than 10 minutes at this point, I will stay with 2 slides. The first is what I call the dashboard. That's slide number 12. I call it macroeconomic dashboard. It's a summary of the major things that ordinarily would be of concern to anyone looking at the economy. In terms of GDP growth rate, yes, our average growth rate January to September last year was 2.45%. That is 2.31, 2.51, 2.54. Average it on a straight line. That will give you 2.45 for the first 3 quarters of the year. So in which case, how would the economy have performed in the fourth quarter? We go to history of about 40 years of data available on that. And it shows that for 2023, our economy will grow at sub 3%. So if it grew at that, but at least higher than the rate of growth of our population, that's one good news there. Growth rate of our population for 2023 was 2.44%. So which again is an area most analysts don't even see at all. 5 years ago, our population was growing at 2.55%. Then 2022, it was growing at 2.45 or 46%. The record for 2023 is 2.44%. So what we now look at is the economy growing faster than the growth rate of our population? Remember, we are number 6 in the world in terms of number. But it doesn't now stop there. I also point this out in terms of population and what we should be thinking of doing. Number one is that when you see the interplay between China and India, June 2023, India overtook China and became the most populated country in the world. Estimated population 1.428 billion people. India 1.425 billion. Nigeria 23.8 million. All right? So now, when you place them, these 3 countries, the median age confers an advantage on Nigeria. So the question then is, how do we take advantage of it? Median age in China is 38 years. Median age in India is 28. Nigeria is 17.2 years. Very young population. An advantage there is that our young population is also likened to that of India. They are tech savvy. There's a Ghanaian company we consult for that will be 100 years old in the next 2 months. 2 years ago, they wanted to replace the head of IT, group head of IT that resigned. And they said, look for us either an Indian or a Nigerian. So I became curious. Why would an old Ghanaian company as old as this, they were 98 years old then, want to replace their group head of IT that resigned? And they said, we want someone either from Nigeria or from India. And the reply they gave me is that we've discovered from our search and analysis that the younger generation of Nigerians, they are as tech savvy as the one we also see in India. So if we think about who will provide leadership for IT in this group, remember how old the company is. It has to be a Nigerian. Now, when you look at the interplay of some other indices I put in there, oil production is going up, clearly that is the immediate escape route for Nigeria in terms of our FX market. There's no shortcut anywhere. If we cannot ramp up oil production and ensure we check, crude oil theft, then there's no immediate solution to the FX conundrum we find ourselves. And of course, oil price favorable, hitting $89 per barrel. Of course, anytime you see the media report on Brent, and I always remind them, why do you report always on Brent? Because Nigeria's burning light always commands a higher price than Brent. So whenever you see Brent at $88, $89 per barrel, take it that burning light is at 90 plus. It happened sometime last week anyway, because we monitor there's a platform you can get that price per minute. Okay? Then, of course, play that side by side with our external results. That's a major problem area. Why do I say major problem area? Because you see the big number, $33 billion. But ask yourself, is it really available? It's not so. And why is that so? Because, of course, we got the facts in the media as well. So to now interpret. Number one is that there are 2 portions to it, the liquid portion and the block portion. That's to start with. Take the liquid portion. They ask yourself, are there matured obligations that have not been extinguished? So play them against that liquid portion. That gives you how much remains. Then go back to the trade data I mentioned earlier on. 1.83 trillion naira monthly import bill. Then convert that to dollars. $2.303 billion every month, using the exchange rate end of December. Put that side by side with the liquid portion. After taking out JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, loan to CBN, then also the matured forward contracts that had not been extinguished by CBN. Add them together, then subtract that from the liquid portion. So how many months of your import bill can what you have on hand pay? Because in exchange rate economics, it must not be less than 6 months. But when your economy is in crisis and you have currency crisis, it must not be less than 11 months. So currently we have just 8-point-something months. So we don't have enough money in the pocket. So when you see CBN, therefore, try so many things to do to stabilize that market, you now understand where it is coming from. But that is what central and reserve banks look at in terms of managing the exchange value of their currencies. Interplay between demand and supply and what is available to support the market. Now, when you come to the other side to it, what we call the premium rate at the parallel market, roadside, black market, whatever name you want to call it, compared to official rate. That's what we call the premium. For the first time ever in the history of Nigeria, it has never happened since independence. And let me also drop this. When people tell you there's no data in Nigeria, it is not correct. There is data. It depends on where you go to. There's data. I mean, I've been invited by the UK government some time ago. It's going to about 20 years now, 2004 June. And they asked me to come and analyze Nigeria's economy and the impact of crude oil on our economic policy since independence. So there's data. It depends on where you go. But when you look at the data, what does it tell you? The data tells you, for example, that never had the official rate been higher than parallel market rate. Because historically, the pattern is always that the man selling foreign currencies by the roadside looks at the official window before setting his price. And that is the obvious thing to do. Because when you come to him, he takes it that you don't have access to official dollar. That's why you are coming to him. So he then looks at the price, then he adds something. So that is what we call premium. But for the first time, about 2 weeks ago, the official rate, that's at the official window, became greater than the rate at the roadside. In which case, premium evaporated. In fact, it turned negative, and that was an aberration. Of course, it later came back because, like I said, those guys selling by the roadside looked at it and said, okay, I think we need to adjust here. So they moved on higher. So there are many projections and prognoses for where the Naira exchange value will likely get to if we sustain the policy of unified exchange rate where we don't have the deep pocket to supply and support the market. So, and of course, our lifestyle too and choices. And I usually give this example. As I'm standing here, ladies and gentlemen, everything I'm wearing is imported. No doubt. Which means this package standing before you, the only made in Nigeria there is me. Which means you don't need to look far to see the evidence that we depend a lot on imports. So to the extent we do that, therefore, we also be driving the demand for foreign currencies. So in which case, lifestyle needs to change and taste, and then we need to also ramp up production and export. We produce what we consume, produce also for the rest of the world. But it cannot happen by merely announcing it. And that's what we keep passing to the government as message. Now, the final part of this is what we call the lead indicator. And that's the one that connects to us. There are two critical sectors. Anytime you want to interpret what the future holds for an economy, that is real estate and then the stock market. Whatever is happening there, we take as a 6 months lead indication of what to expect will happen to the economy. And I will go back again to a study done, for the period of the Great Depression. That's talking about the period 1928 to 1930, okay, where the global economy was in crisis and there was deep concerns all over the world. Now, it's a World Bank study where they now found that there's a relationship between real estate sector and the economy, as well as the stock market and the economy. But if there's a collapse of the stock market, the impact on GDP is half of the impact of collapse in real estate. And we don't need to look far to see that in our current dispensation. China. The Chinese economy, the GDP is about 34% real estate. But that sector has been in turmoil in the last couple of years. The Chinese government has made every effort because they are very sensible. They know how important that sector is to their economy. So they intervened directly in the sector, number one. Then they went to the banks. You gave loans to real estate, okay? Bring your books. All those loans you gave to them, we refinance. So that we clean out your books relating to any real estate asset. So the Chinese government did that. They've done it again this January 2024. So but the whole idea is that if we can stabilize that sector and get it to grow, then our economy is likely to grow. One fact I didn't mention, in the last 46 years, global growth, that is of the global economy, the impetus for that came from China. So a slowing down Chinese economy, therefore, is a worry to the rest of us in the world. Of course, second largest economy in the world. So, and that is what brings it home to us, that the message we want to ensure we pass to our own government is to recognize real estate sector, even though it is small in terms of contribution to GDP, but there's something that is important for us to note here as practitioners in that space. If you check, there are two, slides I have here, two charts. One shows the contribution of real estate to our GDP in Nigeria in the last 11 years. It's been going down, all right? But when its share of GDP is going down, that we interpret as economists as pointers to opportunities within that space, which means it has space to grow and then enhance its contribution to GDP. That's on the one side. The other interesting thing, ladies and gentlemen, that I discovered is that real estate sector in Nigeria, if you look at the growth rate, it has actually been growing. You see the chart also. Let me just point you to that. Go to slide number 28 so that everyone can see slide number 28. I've spoken to all of those are the issues on the economy. Okay, that's the stock market. Those are challenges in the environment. I gave a summary of the Finance Act 2023 and then a summary in just one slide of the budget of this year. Move on to slide number 28. So after that, I will come back and conclude here. Next slide, yes. Correct. Now, the slide to your right is the one that shows the growth rate of the real estate sector in Nigeria. And if you look at that red trend line, it shows that the sector is growing. Now, we can connect that also to the summary that was given to us for this event, that is by the organizing committee. We see what Statista also put out as the value of real estate sector in Nigeria, and then the CAGR between now and year 2030. So, and the challenge to us is this: if the sector is going to grow, and of course, there's a projection that we have also that the economy will grow much faster than our population growth rate. So, if that is going to happen, it means then that everyone here, you should prepare for that growth so that you can also be a part of it. Now, the real challenge is this: I must not grow my business at a rate slower than what that rate says. You know why I say that in interpretation? If your own business is not growing at that same aggregate rate, it means some players within the sector, number one, and then when you compare your growth rate with that of the GDP, that's the economy where you operate, and it is slower, it means somebody within that space, some entity within that space is growing at your expense. So what does that mean for us? We know there are challenges in the economy, but don't waste your energy interpreting those challenges. What you should spend your time on is, in spite of these challenges, we call it constraint maximization in economics. In spite of these challenges, how do I achieve my business objectives? One needs to change. So when you spend more time interrogating what needs to change for me to do more, you find that you pay less attention to arguing with policymakers. Policies are taken. Yes, this platform is also an advocacy platform. We do advocacy, no doubt, but at the same time, we leave it at this pedestal of advocacy and then come back home to our individual businesses. How do I grow at a rate faster than what is projected for Nigeria in real estate between now and year 2020? So I will conclude this way. So what is the outlook? And by the way, I also went ahead. You can look at that on your own, okay? And that one you find in slide 32. as to what should your company be doing at this time. In which case, I went a little bit into strategy in this. What should you be doing between now and June this year? What should take your attention between July and September this year? And what should take your attention between October and December this year? So what is the outlook for the economy in closing? Now, the IMF has rolled out their own outlook for the year. The World Bank has done that. Of course, BA Consult, we did our own before theirs came out. Our own projection is 3.47% for the economy this year. After that, the World Bank came out with, I think, 3.1% thereabout. And then IMF came with 3.0%. So which was all still in the same range. But of course, the three of them are less than what government projects for this year. So but typically what we do is we look at what happened first quarter. So by April, we revise that. All right? Then we now look at other variables that should be of interest to us. What is likely to happen to monetary policy rate, MPR? And then we say, okay, currently it's at 18.75. Latest data on inflation, December 2023, 28.92%, which means there's a differential between inflation rate and monetary policy rate. Any central reserve bank anywhere in the world we normally want to correct that, because what it means is interest rate is negative. All right, so they want to correct that to incentivize investment. So if that is the case, and that is all we consider, we freeze every other consideration, then we should expect CBN to tick up MPR. That's what we should expect. But when we consider other things, there's something we call significant utterances of key government functionaries. Mr. President had said that interest rate currently in Nigeria is too high, and especially it cannot support mortgage, and neither is it also supportive of consumer credit. And so that, for me, is interpreted as a signal to the central bank to do some things that can make interest rates come down, and therefore make consumer lending not only, consumer loans affordable to the borrowers, but also access to affordable mortgages. That, I believe, is an area you need to also advocate for as real estate practitioners, that we should look more in that direction and encourage the government. Now, when we come to the final thing we talk about, and that is, what is the expectation about exchange rate? Because anywhere I go to do that's the first question people ask me. And when we come to Q&A, is the last question they also ask. So what I tell them is that, yes, the president has, in the budget for this year, as approved by the National Assembly, 800 naira to the dollar. That's the assumption for the budget. Now, when we began our own outlook for this year in BA Consult, we had an expectation of 900 naira. That is official average for the year. And then at the time we said the alternative market will be average of 1,250 naira. Now, we put a proviso that this expectation is based on the likelihood that the government will revisit its current exchange rate policy in the light of realities that we face. In fact, EIU, that's Economic Intelligence Unit, projected as of December last year that by the time we do 1 year with this policy, we may likely see naira at 2,000 naira to $1. That was their own projection. So we had many others that did outlook in that manner. So the reality then, and this is where we may likely see a better picture than that dismal one posted by EIU. The Dangote refinery, 2 other modular refineries coming into operation is good news for Nigeria. And as I said earlier, you remember, if 39% of our imports is for refined products, and it is now sourced locally, that means there will be some respite in that in terms of demand for dollars. Yes, it's still importing feedstock, all right? And to import feedstock, it must pay in dollars, all right? But this one, maybe not many of us are aware that from that refinery, they've been exporting fertilizers since September 2021. So Dangote Group has been generating FX from that complex, exporting fertilizers. So the whole idea then is that if we produce and sell to Nigeria on the one hand, where we sell and collect naira, but we still need dollars to import some feedstock. But the dollars required to import feedstock cannot be as much as the dollar we use as a nation to import refined products. So it brings some respite in that regard. So, and our projection therefore is that if the demand therefore dampens, that can bring some measure of stability. So our expectation then is that if the government looks again at this policy, and then we are able to ramp up oil production as mentioned earlier on, then we export more. And by the way, I didn't mention this. There is 200,000 barrels per day of condensate that we export that is not part of OPEC allocation. So which is good for Nigeria. Not many countries have that. Condensate is crude oil in gas form. Okay? So that one is not part of allocation, and that gives Nigeria also some measure of benefit. So if we ramp up production, latest data I had is 1.6 million barrels per day. So if we keep producing more and check oil theft, and then add condensate to that, that gives us opportunity to generate more foreign earnings from that oil sector. Then the dampening of demand for foreign FX to import refined products because of refineries that are now operating, okay, we also bring some respite on the demand side. Interplay then, we bring some measure of stability. So we are looking at the foreign exchange market stabilizing by the second quarter of this year, and then further become very stable by the third quarter. Possibly final quarter of this year, we may see the Naira begin to gather some muscle. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and I appreciate the opportunity to address this guy.
Thank you. Let's please keep it up. Put our hands together for that very, very, very enlightening presentation by our key speaker. Thank you so much, sir. We're very, 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 very grateful. We will move very quickly in the interest of time to our panel discussions. As I mentioned earlier, if you have questions, please hold on to your questions. There'll be a Q&A session where we will address your questions. And for those who are joining us online as well, please put your questions in the Q&A on the platform, and we will come to those very shortly. As we move very quickly to the panel discussion, I would like to welcome a few of our panelists, and I'll be reading their citations very quickly and then welcoming them to the stage. We'll start off with Mrs. Bidemi Fadayomi, Executive Director, Developments and Projects, UPDC PLC, who would also be serving and helping us to steer the actual panel discussions. Ms. Fadayomi is a seasoned real estate professional with over 22 years of experience in Africa and the UK, focused on residential, mixed-use, and commercial real estate markets. She is respected for flawlessly executing highly complex global transactions and managing cross-functional projects teams to achieve the desired performance levels. Ms. Fadayomi holds a bachelor's degree in architecture from the University of Wales, Cardiff. Prior to joining UPDC, her roles included Head Real Estate Assets Development of Argentile Asset Management Limited, VP Real Estate for Avante Property Asset Management, Project Manager for Trent Farrow, UK, and Project Architect at ADAS Architects UK. She was appointed an ED of the company on 28th of July 2022. She's a member of the Board Finance, Investment and Operations Committee and the Board Risk Audit and Compliance Committee of the UPDC. Please put your hands together as welcome Ms. Fadayomi to the stage. Thank you very much. All right. In the interest of time, I think we'll just go straight to inviting the other members of the panel. Please put your hands together as we welcome to the stage once again our lead speaker, the person of Dr. Adedipe. Please put your hands together as he joins us on stage. Also, we'd like to welcome to the stage Mr. Paul Onwanibe, the Group CEO of Landmark Africa Group. Please put your hands together as he joins us as well. Good morning, sir, and welcome. We would also like to welcome to the stage Mr. Yemi Idowu, founder and CEO of Aircom Nigeria Limited. Please put our hands together as we welcome him to the stage as well. Last but not least, also, please join me as we welcome the chairman of the Construction and Real Estate Group of the Nbcc, Mr. Akim Oguniro, as he joins us on stage. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. Thank you very much for joining us this morning at today's session. And thank you for the panelists for taking time to share their knowledge and experience. Today's discussion theme is looking ahead, gauging opportunities. As the theme suggests, Nigeria still has a lot of opportunities for investors, especially those who are able to take advantage of the challenging environment that has been very articulately expressed this morning. We have issues surrounding inflation. The inflation rate today is around 30%. We have rising interest rates. The average rate is about 24%. We also had the devaluation of the naira and the increase in construction costs, which highly affects the real estate sector. And it's important for us to understand how these economic indices affect the industry and how players such as developers can navigate this very complex world. So I'd like to start this morning with you, Paul. Nice to have you here. Can you tell us a little bit more about the Landmark story and how you've been able to build an impressive portfolio of mixed-use assets, residential, retail, commercial, in a very challenging environment?
Thank you very much. You flatter us a bit, but thank you. So the Landmark story, that I think I can perhaps summarize the challenge and the opportunity and the vision under the 3 Ps. They're slightly different from the 3 Ps earlier. So it's people, place, and purpose. For people, so Landmark is a company in Nigeria, built by Nigerians for Nigeria. And one of the key things that we've focused on from a real estate perspective is people. And when I say people, our currency of real estate is footfall. It's not bricks and mortar, it's not the square footage. So the more people who come to Landmark, the more successful we are. So we've just focused on bringing people to Landmark. And to get people to Landmark, we need to focus on experiences, make sure they stay there long enough, and make sure they have enough things to do. So that's the first thing, the people. When it comes to place, everybody knows real estate is location, location, location. So to create a place where you can come to and you can do a number of things at one time was a foremost part of our thinking. And then purpose basically is to make sure that people have a reason to come, and then when they come, they enjoy themselves as much as possible. But most importantly, they tell other people about us. So that's our entire focus.
Interesting. I think you've hit the nail on the head when you talk about the mixed-use experience, because coming into a space like Landmark, where you have the opportunity to not just do your shopping, but also work, also live, and also enjoy yourself in terms of entertainment, creates a focal point for the state in order to generate more footfalls. So I think that's been an excellent strategy that has been adopted by Landmark. If I go to you, Yemi, can you tell us a little bit about your story, especially with regards to the residential market and the housing deficit? Economists have projected a 20 to 25 million housing deficit in Nigeria, but you've obviously been very active in the market, ranging from your initial developments to the latest Bodilon courts, I believe. So if you'd just like to tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yes, thank you very much. I think the key is that you don't look at housing, but you look at homes, dwelling spaces. The unique selling point here is you try to bridge the gap, the infrastructure gap, as a result of the inability of government to provide the required utilities. So if you look at it from an onion ring type of situation, you want to, as you move from home to work back to home, as you get closer to home, you should feel a bit of relief that I'm going to be safer going into my house. You get to your house, you have electricity, you have water, and you have a dwelling space that is livable. So if you just only focus on bricks and mortar, you'll just be one of many. But if you're able to provide a reasonable, safe dwelling space, livable space, then that becomes a unique selling point. And that's what we've breached on with our estates.
Okay, thank you very much. In spite of all these challenges that we've discussed, you recently decided to go into the retail sector. Can you explain to us why you feel that that's the next opportunity for you and your team, and what challenges you face and how you've overcome them?
Okay. Interestingly, if I was asked to do it again now, I wouldn't. It was a mistake because it happened just before the coronavirus situation. So we more or less were caught in the cat's eyes. What has happened is that Nigeria has changed, and I'll talk more about it later. But Nigeria, you need to now recognize that the next generation are not going to follow the same model that we have followed. Go to school, go to work, go home. Now everything is all integrated. So you have continuous learning that takes place. You don't leave school. You continuously, learning. You don't stay in one job. You're moving profession, and you might even multitask or be in multiple professions at the same time. Your living space will become your working space. Your working space becomes your living space, and everything becomes all integrated. So I will be a bit silent about the moving into retail. I will say that the way forward now is dwelling spaces. So wherever you are is your living, working space. And so that's where I'll answer that question. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being very honest. But the reality with development is that we have to adapt as changing trends and preferences arise. And it's our ability to do that that makes us not just long-term developers, but successful long-term developers. We've talked around sustainability and the importance of being able to develop and build an agile and sustainable business. And that becomes more critical in a turbulent economic environment. So if I could just turn to you on the back of that, how do you see developers playing and being able to operate in a more agile fashion given the challenges that we're talking about here?
So thank you so very much. Now, as I remarked during my presentation, when we talk about being agile, it considers the fact that, number one, you are not alone within that space. And then you identify what the risk issues are also in that environment. And then challenge yourself, do I do things differently and how? In which case, like, Yemi said just now, you face the reality of today and say, how do I do things in a way different and better? Not only looking at my own achievements in the past, but equally across at my competitors. Oftentimes, we don't keep our eyesight on competitors. So, and that is an important thing in the era we are in, because when you are successful as a developer, you are marked out as a champion. And what everybody wants to do is to beat the champion. Nobody cares about also ran. It's the champion they are targeting. So if you are not the champion, then the agility you're building is how do I outcompete, outmaneuver, and in fact, there are 4 of them that we see in that manner. You outcompete, you outmaneuver, of course, you outprice in whichever direction, the competitor, but especially the champion. So you must then interrogate your processes. That's where it comes to your business model. Go back again to the old business canvas with 9 elements. So what needs to change on that business canvas out of the 9 elements? Then I'll bring in also something, it connects to the remark made earlier on the P's. There are so many P's, either 4 of them or 5 of them or 7 of them. But this is the one I will give to you to address agility, primarily. You must interrogate every of the following 7 P's. The first is the product you are offering that solves a particular problem in that very environment. The second is how that product is packaged. And I'll give an illustration, just using timeshare to illustrate. Now, people sign contracts of timeshare for 100 years. And then you sign that contract for 100 years, but every year the cost of maintaining the luxury apartment, right, in Dubai, there in Jumeirah, because I'm very much aware of that, okay? You pay about $1,300, at times $1,500 annually as maintenance fee, which means they are assured of that income for 100 years. So the idea then is that you will use it in your lifetime and pass it to your children. So that now is the packaging. The third element now connects to the place mentioned earlier. So where? Location is very vital. The fourth one connects to the people. Which people are you targeting? Then the fifth one, we talk about how people get to know about you. And that's where digitization comes in. We call it end-to-end digitization. How do they get to know about you? Now, 94% of Nigerians that have access to internet, they do it on their phones. So in which case, whatever business you are doing, people should be able to get to know about you on their phones. And then, of course, the sixth one talks about the price. See where price is. Price is very far down the list. And then the final one is your processes. So those 7 elements, you must think at them on an ongoing basis. So in which case, every day, there's always something you want to change in there. That is what brings agility into your system. So, and of course, that gives you speed of response to what is happening.
Thank you. Interesting that you say that price is very low on the list of requirements. Are you saying that from a demand perspective, price is actually not as important as some of the other items that you've listed above? Because we all claim that price is the issue. But from what you're suggesting, price is not as important as creating the right product in the right place, with the right offering, in the right package,
person.
the right person, using the right communication channel.
That's right. For me, all of those 5 elements are fundamental before you get to price. So if you put price first, you can lose out.
Very interesting.
Because you didn't do well in those other areas.
Thank you very much. That's been very enlightening. Paul, if I could just go back to you briefly. In spite of all the challenges that we face in the sector in economy, what do you think is your future direction in terms of Landmark?
The tough question. So when I look at the challenges, I suppose Nigeria is one of those countries that when you look at the challenges, you have to figure out how you unwrap them and figure out what the opportunities are. So if you look at the biggest challenges, they're probably the biggest opportunities. So when I look at Nigeria, obviously one of the biggest challenges is infrastructure, the regulatory environment, the number of experiences that people can have. So the thing about Nigeria is when you come to Nigeria and say, I want something to do, there's really not a lot to do. It's a fairly boring country from that aspect because the things to do haven't been milked and haven't been packaged in a way that people can buy. So I think those are the opportunities for Landmark. The opportunities are to provide a safe environment, a one-stop shop environment that's not short of any infrastructural issues, where there are a lot of experiences, there's a lot of pleasure, there's a lot of help, and there's a lot of services. So that's what we will try to do within what is a very difficult economic environment and regulatory environment. I must say the regulatory environment here is pretty tough. That in itself, I suppose, for the technologists out there, is an opportunity because the more transparency and the more authenticity that the regulatory environment gives us, the easier it will be to grow this property sector as a percentage of GDP and in terms of employment. I mean, one of the biggest problems Nigeria has is not enough people are gainfully employed. I heard one of the president's special advisors basically say that 81% of Nigerians are not productively employed. So they're parking your cars and they're opening gates and stuff, right? And the problem with that is eventually those jobs will go away when you don't have enough money in your pockets to tip them. And what will these people do from then? So this whole demographic boom, this 220 million people is a risk as well as a potential opportunity. So how do you put these people to work, and how do you make sure they enjoy themselves? If Landmark was any bigger, it would be to provide a platform for all that to happen very well.
Interesting. Thank you. And Yemi, in terms of the challenges that we face as a sector, the real estate sector, what advice would you give to players in the market on how to operate?
Okay. I might take a while answering this, so please, tolerate me here. I wish we had, when you talk in terms of players, you have private sector and you have public sector. And I wish we had the physical presence of the special advisor here. I'll take it step by step. Paul made a very, very important point about regulation. The real estate sector is misregulated. This is a professional sector, and every aspect is professional. An architect is a qualified architect, structural engineer, mechanical engineer, electrical engineer, land surveyor, you name it, facility manager, town planner, it's all regulated. So for someone to give the impression that, oh, I want to regulate the real estate sector is not, is not on the right track. In addition, you go to Corporate Affairs Commission and you get your certificate of registration, corporate registration. You get all your documentation like any other company. Then someone says you should come and register to go into the real estate business. Something is wrong. And the same government. And you're asking me, the documents you're asking me for are all government documents. Even my passport is a government document. My bank details is a government document. Everything is a government document. So government is asking me for government document. This is not regulation, it's a revenue drive. So let's tell the truth. Now, if you have a process that's not working and you want to continue with it, then you're going down the wrong alley. So public sector, private sector, that is public sector. If public sector wants to help us, they should focus on policy and don't go to practice. If you want to talk about programs and you don't have money to fund it, then you must bring private sector to fund it. I'll give you an example. Town planning. The whole of Lekki Phase 1 today was developed by private sector. Government is coming after the fact with infrastructure, struggling with infrastructure. But if policies were in place from day one, I'll give you a simple example. I was supposed to do regional bypass. Under Fashola, they came with soldiers and stopped me. Under Ambode, it was approved again. When the new government came in, the governor wanted to do it. He agreed, but they pressured him and they said, look, we'll award contracts, and you know what has happened. So the problem is not usually the governor, is not the individuals, it's the system. A very simple example of what can work is you have all these large spaces. You know urban spread is going to come. You know people need a space to stay. There's nothing wrong in saying, look, this area, you go ahead, take your money, put the road, put the water, put the electricity. And then when you're selling the plots, or we are selling the plots or giving allocation, we compel people to pay some service charge or capital contribution to repay the people who invested in the water, who invested in electricity. And then you have cadastral and a proper layout you can use for planning that will come. Most of the time, you'd have finished building before NEPA comes to you. They know you're building, but they don't come. They're waiting for you to come to them to apply to give you electricity. And they know what is happening. So, I mean, I don't want to go much further than that, but your question on what the challenges are, we need policy from government to drive private sector investment. There's a lot of things and lots of opportunities, but we cannot get up on our own to start doing it. The minute you put up a signboard, one agency or the other, or somebody will come and stop you and prevent you from doing it. And we will not be able to make the required investment unless the right policies are put in place. Before I go, I'll just make another, just final point. This is, it's an analogy. We can acknowledge information, educational achievements, and intelligence, but don't confuse information to facts. That's what Doctor was saying earlier, that there's enough data and facts to drive your decision making. Don't confuse education with knowledge, right? Just because you're qualified and you have this certificate doesn't mean you have knowledge. The industry has knowledge. Come to the industry. And don't confuse intelligence with wisdom. Yeah? Thank you. Let me stop there.
Thank you very much for those very candid words. You raised a point about urban regeneration and urban renewal, and I know it's something that's what you're very passionate about at the moment with your Ajegule project, I take it. Can you just share the learning points from that particular development and what you think should drive land banking for most developers given today's challenges?
Okay. You're looking for trouble, but I'm going to talk about it. So I'm happy Akim is here. And I think people, unfortunately, I think, Akim, people don't recognize what you've done over the years in this industry and how he has been. Please give him a round of applause. So you see, the thing about Lagos has a unique situation. The massive urbanization of Lagos has been a challenge, but it's also been an opportunity. And we took the Ajegule story as a case study. And the World Bank, IFC, they've recognized it today, and many people have gone there. And even there are many people in this room that probably don't know the story about Ajegule. They know probably about Maracana, but they don't know about Tolu. And we went into an area that people were afraid, Nigerians were afraid to walk into. A slum. Garbage, mosquito, dirty. Nobody was interested in the place. But when you walk in there, you realize, the opportunity is unbelievable. By the way, if I give you some of the figures, the money that we're going to make out of Ajegule is more than what people are making in VI. But people don't see it. And there are many other places like Ajegule, there's Bariga, there's Shomolu, there are many other places like that. And what we did was we went into the area, we spoke with the people, we got them to agree, we paid compensation, because this is another thing about relocation. Going with mobile police and army and stuff is wrong. You need to go in there, negotiate with them. Their stake is they pay their rent. So give them the money to go and rent another place. And the person you have to talk with is with the shanty landlord. But the actual person occupying it is not the shanty landlord. So you compensate those people. We went through social engagement. We got them out. We filled the place. And instantly, properties about 2 million naira became 16 million naira. 2 to 16 million naira. So where else do you get that kind of capital appreciation? And the other thing about it is that if you look on the satellite, all the properties are all low, single-level properties, occupying valuable land, and they're all bungalows and shanties and things like that. The minute you provide infrastructure and using modern technology today, you can go high-rise. And when I'm saying high-rise, I'm not talking 20-story, I'm talking 4 stories and such. You look at near Oshodi, Shogunle, near the airport, that's valuable land. Bariga is valuable land. Ajegunle, of course, is valuable land because of customs, NDLEA, Port Authority, and everything. Suddenly, everybody wants to live there now. And that's when you talk about urban regeneration, Lagos is ripe and ready. The money people are going to make once government comes up with the right policy is going to be phenomenal. I'll also add one more thing. In terms of policy, I had a meeting last week with Ministry of Housing, and they're working with us on it. The planning approval and the regulations is designed for rich people, not for poor people. They're insisting you must have 2 cars, 2 parking spaces per dwelling space. How many poor people have 2 cars? Even if you're overseas where they're paying higher purchase, there's no higher purchase here. You buy the car cash. The value of a car now is 30 million naira. So if you have 2 cars, what house are you buying? So then they insist you must have a fire escape, you must have this, you must have that. You're not planning to house 25 million people, you're planning to house 2,000 people. If you want to house 25 million people, you must insist that, okay, I allow you to build dwelling units at 25 square meters each, and then provide infrastructure for that. Even when you come to Lagos Island, all the roads and things that they have there, you don't need the roads. You can convert everything to pedestrian and put multi-story car parks all around and let people, have covered walkways all around. So the policy is what we need. We private sector will invest. Where you don't have money for electricity, make the policy in place, we'll provide electricity. Where you don't have the money for the roads, put the policy in place, we'll provide the roads. So stop trying to award contracts that you can't pay, you can't manage, and so just put the policy in place and the investment will come. Thank you.
Thank you. So it sounds like you believe that the important thing is to redefine what a product is, that we don't need these kind of products that are very large and lavish with very high requirements, but that we need to review that and bring it in line with what our population really needs.
Yes. In fact, the answer is there already. I went to, in 2007, 2008. I don't know how many of you have been to China, or you've seen the photographs. So I went to a development with one of my partners, a Chinese development. It was huge blocks of flats. So from outside, I was looking at the development. I was saying, wow, this is fantastic. Wow. I know I'm being recorded. I have to be careful what I'm saying. But we now entered the building. Beautiful building on the outside. When we entered, I just noticed the staircase was concrete. No tiling, nothing. The walls were concrete, no painting, basic. I looked at the lift. The lift went only to 3rd floor, 6th floor, 9th floor, 12th floor. Then we went up into a flat. When we went into the flat, only the front door was the door in the flat. The rest of the flat, there was like a 1-bedroom, 2-room apartment. There was no other doors. The bedroom didn't have a door. The kitchen was open plan. The floor was polished concrete, like what you call terrazzo, but without the stones. It was nice, clean, very clean, everything about it clean. There were 5 light bulbs in the entire apartment. The balcony was virtually in the sitting room, and they had like a UPVC thing on the balcony. So they added the balcony to the room. And the bedroom, more or less, was the sitting room. The 2nd bedroom was the sitting room. They fold their mattress at night and stuff. And comfortable place. They were happy. It was fine. If you offer this to majority of Nigerians, they will accept it. The masses will accept it. But when you see Federal Ministry of Housing or Ministry of Housing wants to award a contract, and you see the bill of quantities with all specification, this, and everything, I said, what? And you're wondering why it's costing 30 million to build. All the raw material of construction in Lagos, everything is from outside Lagos. The only thing Lagos produces is sand. And that sand now, they stopped it. Granite is from outside, and we're all going one by one with trucks to go and get granite. Government can arrange to have a granite store to bring in granite in large quantities by barges, by train, and store it for us here. Wood, you can bring wood in, and we have a wood processing facility. But all of us are going with teaspoon trucks, one by one, driving up and down, bringing lorries. And then you have agencies on the road. Yeah, bottlenecks. All sorts of agencies on the road collecting tickets, collecting this, collecting that, and every single one is approved by government. then you wonder why housing is difficult. I've just been lucky I have found a way around it, but there's no way unless the policy will go back to the policy. Then on the issue of a product, I agree with you, and I think Paul is on the right track as well. You need to know what class, where you are in the product. And once that comes in, everybody knows, am I in the retail? Am I in the mass housing? Am I in the upper end housing? Am I in this? Commercial? But if you go today for governor's consent, whether you are in VI or you're in Ajegunle, you pay the same money. Right? So you're wondering why there's no cemetery, why there's no fire station, why there's no open spaces. If I'm paying the same money, I will go for the most profitable development that will pay for my money. So from a town planning point of view and a policy point of view, if government gets it right, the products will come to fit in those spaces. And I tell you something. But I think the civil servants, I think, again, maybe let's not blame the civil servants, because the civil servants are working based on the body language. If the body language is right, like what happened during Fashola's time, you see that the civil servants were keen. And what has to happen is the body language has to be, look, I want to do 100,000, not 5,000. I want to do 100,000 spaces. Go to Lagos Island, go to Ajegunle, go to Shogmule, go to Bariga, go to those places. We cannot be going to Ogun State and people are traveling 2.5 hours or 3 hours every day in the morning and in the evening. That cannot work. The only solution is to do urban regeneration and go high rise.
Thank you. Thank you for that insight. So Paul, what are your thoughts on how the government can provide an enabling environment for the sector?
Well, Yemi has said most of it. I think again, think of the issues. If the idea is the government should step aside for the private sector to do the things that the private sector are good at, and the government should do the things that they're responsible for. So when you think of paperwork, Yemi talked about sort of the paper you have to get from the government. And the latest building that we're building that you see coming up, we spent over ₦1 billion just on paper. Without laying a stone in the ground. So I think one of the things the government needs to improve is the transparency and authenticity of that paperwork, that regulatory environment. It will remove 30% of the cost of the building. The second thing is infrastructure. So when an official comes to taste my water and check my sewage, and I explain that if my water was bad and my sewage was leaking onto the streets, then I wouldn't have a business. So it's my responsibility to make it good. But are you doing the same thing? But you're coming to check my water and my sewage, when it was your responsibility to give it to me in the first place. So that in itself is that itself is an issue. So I would say one of the things that the government could do is take some of this tax money and invest it back to the property developers to provide some of this infrastructure that they're unable to provide, rather than this thing. And then the third thing I think we all know is the rule of law. The problem is that unless you strengthen the laws around both property occupation and contracts, then we don't really have a commodity that's quotable, if you like. Yes. So to get a covenant on the property, you have to be able to control the tenancy of that property and control the money you get out of it. So those laws are not strong enough. And then lastly, and I'm sure if we start on it, we won't stop, is the Land Use Act. If we don't refine this and modernize it, then property will never be, property in this country will never really be an investable commodity from outside. So if you ask yourself, 80% of the products of property is imported, yes? And to balance that equation, you need 80% of the investment in property coming from the outside too. And that's not happening. And that's why we don't have big infrastructure projects here. So I would say those would be the main things I would look at. I mean, obviously the industries that surround property, where property is a platform that I think could be made easier. We play in one, which is the tourism hospitality industry. It's the biggest employer of people on earth. 1 in 10 people on earth are employed. The government doesn't do much to help this industry flourish. So that's important if you want property to have more bang for its buck.
Yeah. I guess especially the hospitality sector, which caters to the tourism industry, that it does require a lot more government support in order to ensure that it continues to provide the sort of services that it does.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Last but not least, the most important person, Mr. Oguniran, thank you very much for being patient. We just want to talk a little bit more about the NBCC's perspective on the industry and what to watch out for in 2024.
Okay, thank you very much. I think from what we try to do at NBCC is to always look at opportunities. That's why our team is looking ahead, gauging opportunities. Obviously, the challenges are there. Real estate is a tough segment, but what we must also understand is that they say in mafia that when blood flows on the street, it means there's money to be made. So when you look at very tough segments, if you look at it very well, you'll discover that there are pockets of opportunities, and you can do yourself good by, like Doctor said, rather than just dwelling on the challenges, but look at those opportunities and try to fashion a way to navigate the environment in such a way that you're still able to maximize the opportunities as much as possible. And that's our perspective as NBCC. Now, however, we always like to, so first of all, we like to draw attention to what we call the potential sweet spots. Last year here, we spoke about warehousing business. There's still significant opportunity in warehousing business, because we must understand that whenever you have an economy where e-commerce is growing, you need a very strong supply chain architecture to drive the e-commerce, and that makes the case for warehousing and distribution very compelling. I sit as the chairman of a logistics business, a startup, and I can tell you that for the past 3 years, we've not been able to meet demand. We've built hubs, we've built spokes all around Lagos and even outside of the country. And every day we'll continue to get that. And we're still talking about general warehousing. Now you begin to talking to specialized distribution, particularly pharmaceutical logistics, significant opportunities, providing cold room, cold storage, cold transportation, and things like that. So those are areas that we should be looking at. And the other emerging area in this industry is concierge business. And we need to drill down in concierge business. Last year, we had significant cases of reverse medical tourism. So you now see our people in Canada, in the UK, in the US coming to Nigeria for MRI, for operations and things like that. I understand the waiting period in those parts of the lab very long. And it was quite significant. So now we're talking about how do you now begin to build a real estate business around it. When people go for MRI, they need temporary accommodation, they need care homes when they leave before they go back. It's a very strong emerging opportunity area that I believe that we should be thinking about as a people. Now, in terms of what should be the issues that should agitate our minds as players, I'll just discuss like 3 or 4. Number one, we've had regulation over and over here. I think 2024 is going to be a year of regulatory intensity. We're going to see a lot of focus on compliance and regulation. You've seen what has happened in Lagos, you've seen what has happened in Enugu and Abuja. I think also, as players in this industry, we need to pay a lot more attention to due diligence and compliance. In those days, we used to assume that once I finish building the house, I fostered a fait accompli on government. But you can see that even if you have finished building 5-10 years ago, government can still come and pull down those buildings. We've seen what happened in Lagos. So you will do very well to ensure that when you're building, you look at the approval order for the area, you look at the zoning for the area, and don't ever assume that you can get away with some things the way we used to get away with them. So I think it's going to be a year of regulatory intensity. I think in terms of funding will still be very difficult to come by. So my view is that we all still have to try to build flexibility into our capital stacks It's important. MPR is still above 18%. So on the back of that alone, you're borrowing at 20-25%. If you're lucky. So how do you buy land in the open market, do your permit and approval in the normal way, borrow money in the usual way, and still succeed in this business? It is going to be very, very, very tough. So it calls for innovative funding. SEC approved the rules on crowdfunding 2 years ago. We've been pushing because the maximum amount you can raise under that regulation now is 100 million. We've been pushing for increase. I think we're making very good progress. So we should begin to think of creating asset classes that we can use to crowdfund. I think that is an area that we all need to look at. There's 14-15 trillion naira sitting in pension funds, but the pension funds will never invest in real estate directly, but they will invest in asset classes. So we should be looking as an industry, how do we aggregate capital that we can take the asset class to the pension funds? If you, as an industry, if we access just 2% of 15 trillion, the story changes. All of us that we are frowning our faces this morning, we begin to laugh and smile because there's opportunity for capital to drive the industry. I think it's also going to be a year that technology will take the center stage in a much greater dimension. We've done, if you look at what has happened in the past 5-6 years, we've made significant progress in terms of deploying technology to property management. So you see all manners of apps which have helped to facilitate and simplify FM today. But we haven't done really well in terms of deploying technology, in terms of building. Yemi and I have always taken the same position that we're still building houses. We have to start manufacturing houses. We have to stop calling Baba Sharafa and Baba Toy. We have to standardize. We have to deploy technology. And my simple analysis is that in this country, if you do a simple development that should take 2 years, if you're able to save 6 months, in terms of financial savings, it is very, very significant. So any technology that will help you to deliver cheaper, faster, is very good. It's very good for us. So I think technology is going to take center stage. I think for those of us also seeking for huge capital, sustainability will also will become a much bigger issue. As some of us know, I sit on the board of REAL in the UK. REAL is a global finance institution for affordable housing. And today, everybody is moving towards affordable climate smart homes. Now, currently, we're running a proof of concept in Kenya because we couldn't find any suitable project in Nigeria, which was very unfortunate. But the proof of concept is being run in Kenya now. So if you want to access funds in that space, green bonds, climate compliant homes, you will do very well to begin to pay more attention to certification and how they help to drive your business in the long run. I think we're also going to see a lot significant government intervention, much better. So the federal government has just launched Renew Hope Cities, and I'll tell you what they've done differently from what they've done in the past. The first thing is that they've set very high standards, but the first thing that I find very admirable is the fact that these numbers that you see have been put in the KPIs of the Minister for Housing. So he assigned a KPI, which we've all seen, that I would deliver this, as part of my KPIs to government. And I understand all the ministers have signed that. The second thing you've seen is that, under the previous government, we had somebody who was saying the right things, but they were not doing the right things. And I think that was why they did less than 8,000 houses in 8 years. So we had a vice president who understood the issues, was using the right language, was pushing, but nothing was done to back that up. But we've seen that the language at the highest level under this dispensation is much better, much different. So on Thursday last week, the first estate was launched, and the president attended personally, and they've released money. They released 126 billion for the first 100,000 houses, which I think is also very, very significant. They've set up 4 committees. I happen to be serving in one of the committees on project delivery. So there's a committee on land reform, there's one on building materials, there's one on collaboration, and there's one on project delivery on which I serve. So I think that we're going to see some traction in that respect coming from government. And also, I think for the very first time, federal government has understood that we have to go beyond Adamawa and all those areas and come to where houses are much more needed, you know. So you saw the minister announcing last week that he would do 2,500 houses in Lagos, you know, and I think they're already working with Lagos State government. So I think that there are challenges. There are very significant challenges. I always say that it is needlessly painful, you know, to play in this segment, you know. But, you know, the Bible says that he who has bountiful eyes shall be blessed. You know, and what does it mean to have bountiful eyes? It's to focus on opportunities and not the challenges. And that's our position as the Nigerian-British Chamber of Commerce, the construction and real estate group. We're looking at, we're bringing the challenges to the attention of our people, but we're saying that let's look beyond the challenges. And the reason why this year I've brought in Paul and Yemi is also to show that, you know, people can do great things in this country. You know, it's a pity they've not really drilled down. You know, if they really drill down and you see how, in spite of all the issues, what they've been able to achieve, you know, I don't know what is under their skin and how they've gotten this far. You know, it just means there's a lot of learnings, you know, and even with the list that they have shared, you can see that there's significant depth in what they have done and how we can use that, you know, to really wrap up what we need to do. So that's some of the things that we need to pay attention to as a people. Hopefully, you know, we'll still take advantage of the growth in the sector. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And on that positive note, I think we'll bring this discussion to an end. Thank you all very much for your participation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please let's put our hands together once more for the panel. And just in the interest of time, we might be only able to take just a few questions, probably 2, 3 maximum. So if you have any questions in the house, please just wave your hands. Or comments, comments. Okay, we have one here, one there, one more, and then that's it. Okay, I think your hand came up first. And then please help me check if we have any questions on the YouTube platform as well.
Good morning once again. Thank you for the good presentations, and I do appreciate the guest speaker on this occasion. My question is very simple. I probably want to go back to Yemi, though, especially how he was able to access the land in spite of the bottlenecks in Lagos State, and perhaps in Nigeria in general, and coupled with the issue of infrastructure deficits. With the current economic outlook in this country, it's still very difficult to access land, coupled with the fact that we have a lot of land grabbers outside there, and the government policy is not helping the situation. And now the public-private partnership, the claim to be that is in vogue, is no longer there. Because if they allocated hectares of land, I remember last year, the Lagos State government allocated about 50 hectares that we have at the Lacera Forum to a particular private sector. And up to now, they are unable to assess it. I don't know how Yemi will be able to shed more light on this, giving reference to first tax side.
Thank you. Let's just take all the questions and then we'll okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for the presentations. My question is to Dr. Biodun. So about a week or 2 ago, the CBN governor mentioned 2 things that were responsible for FX needs, which were health and education. So I want to ask, from an economics perspective, what do you think this government can do to reduce that? Because if health is one of the things that people ask for FX for, and we know those who ask for FX for such a thing, it's not the general populace. So what can the government from the top, those who ask for it mostly, what can they do to reduce that? And also for education. I mean, I would love to study outside of this country, but I mean, I may not have the finances now. How can the government ensure that from the top, they reduce their own demand for it so that some of us can come into play?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Adedipe, for the presentation. And thanks, Chairman, for the list of opportunities that you have given. Quite insightful. Doctor, I'll just take you out of construction into the money market. Last week, we saw a T-bills rate from CBN that was so high, and there was no trend analysis that could support that jump in rates. I'd like to pick your thoughts on what CBN is looking at. The second one is a comment. We talked about changing our taste, and this is a discussion we have every time. We need to change our taste, yet everything on us is imported. And my question is, how do we go about this? Is a case of what do we do first? Do I change my taste? Do I start producing those things here before I change my taste? Or how do I change my taste and start buying local things when they are not available anyway? Thank you.
Thank you. Just before we answer, one question from our online audience. The question is, as a professional that does not operate in the real estate sector, what do I need to bear in mind if I want to make significant profitable investments in real estate? I'm not sure which of our panelists will take that. Probably, yes, probably him. So maybe we'll start with that and then we'll just run. I think, Doctor, you have two questions. And I think Mr. Yemi has one question as well.
Okay, thank you. I mean, when I was speaking, I wanted to also advise investors. Number one of the areas that would be problematic for us in the industry is costs, because the costs are running away. You can see what has happened to the prices of key inputs over the past 2 years. Some have risen by 100, 200, 300%. I was checking yesterday and I found that the cost of reinforcement per metric ton is now 780,000 naira. You know, that's criminal because before COVID, this was 140,000 naira. So how do we just relate with that? You know, so costs, cement, I learned cement is now almost 8,000 in some area, you know, per bag, all over the country, sand, everything that we use, you know. So developers are going to face escalating costs, you know. It will be difficult, I think, for anybody to fix prices. So you will do a lot by infusing some variableness into your pricing, flexibility, you know. But investors also have to be very careful of freebies, you know. Anytime when I see buy 4 and get 1 free, you know, buy 2 and get 1 at half price. In this market, I always wonder whether we're still talking about houses and land, whether we're now talking about milk and sugar, you know. So as an investor, we also have to be very, very careful. I think such offers provide a perfect storm for fraud, as we have seen over the past few. So as the experts have told you, you want to invest, do your due diligence very well, involve professionals, ensure that ask the basic questions. You want to buy land, take time to visit the site. Don't buy land from a PowerPoint presentation that is sent to you in your office. You know, you need to go to the land physically. Something will just put you on inquiry when you get there. Look at the pedigree of the person offering. You know, when I see somebody who has not done 50 houses, and he now has some beautiful 3Ds, he wants to do 2,000 houses, I will run away. You know, those are simple signals that we should pay attention to as those who want to invest. You know, check the pedigree. You know, there are some developers in this country today, when you see their development, you can pay and close your eyes. You know they would deliver in spite of the challenges. I mean, I will put my money in Yemi Dowu's development any day, because from Northern Foreshore to French Colony to Napier to all this, I mean, you can see significant track record over the years. You know, so these are the little things that investors need to ensure that they pay attention to. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The first question relates to education, health. An average of about $40 million US, the CBN governor said. But the dispensation we are in now in the FX market is that of willing seller and willing buyer, which means there is no restriction whatsoever in terms of what you can buy. And of course, with your money, which you purchase at the FX market. So if you are willing to pay the rate in the market, you can buy and go on medical tourism to UAE, wherever. Okay? So that is the dispensation we are in now. It's no longer an era of demand management. That's what CBN is saying. We are not managing demand anymore. So if you can afford it, the market is open, buy it, and then go out there and pay for whatever you want. If you can't afford it, then you buy Nigeria. Okay? And that connects to the second part of that question. And the way I put it is this, that in fact it relates to the question that my friend and brother asked today, and that is this issue of a change in taste. I was privileged in 2015 to be the chairman of the Central Organizing Committee for the Nigerian Economic Summit. That was the first year Buhari came into office as president. So we came up with a theme, and then usually letter to the president. We organized what we call the Presidential Forum, opening session. The President Buhari said, since I've already delegated management of the economy to Yemi, is the one that will come to you guys. So we restructured the Presidential Forum around Vice President Oshimajo's competency. So the following year, I was privileged again to be the chairman of the Central Organizing Committee. And I said, okay, ladies and gentlemen, what theme do we adopt for this year's economic summit that will make President Buhari leave us all and come to Transcorp? So we came up with Made in Nigeria. And I broke it down for my colleagues this way. I said, economic activities are in three planks: production, consumption, then exchange, all right, or trade, if you like. I said, so the two legs of production and consumption, this is how it connects to Made in Nigeria. For consumption, buy what is made in Nigeria. And they gave them several examples, but in particular, I used South Korea. Ladies and gentlemen, South Korea took the plan of our Jakarta. That was the first steel plant they built in South Korea. Okay? But today, we ride their cars. In fact, the two cars in my garage, they are made in South Korea. The SUV and the car, they are Korean cars. Okay? Now, 2013, a South Korean brand, that is Kia, won the award as the best-selling automobile in the home of automobile. That's in the US, automobile market. But when I think about the fact that they took the plan of Jakarta to construct their first steel plant, and they progressed from there to start producing vehicles. And then I relate that to the story. The first brand of Kia that came to Nigeria, for those of us in banking, in the late 80s, early 90s, was called Capita. I'm sure we remember. Okay? That car was so poor in quality that within the first 6 months of using it, it will start falling apart. We Nigerians abandoned it. But back home in South Korea, they did not. They kept buying it as their own product. So the thing about that is, over time, they were able to improve the quality. So I now said, Made in Nigeria, we should now do it this way. Let government come up with a policy. Of course, when Professor Yemi Osinbajo acted as president, he signed an executive order on buying Nigeria in this manner that 30% of federal government budget annually will be spent on buying things produced in Nigeria. I now advocated that we should have it also become law, where we set a target of 10 years to raise it from 30 to 80. And where did the idea come from? I wanted to raise a facility of $410 million for a port complex in Nigeria. We got it okayed by US Exim Bank. The US Exim Bank now said, we won't give you this money unless you show us a clear line in sight that 80% of the money will be used to procure things from the US. So now, when it came to what we call the Ristacker, it's a major equipment in port operations. They said we should buy Taylor brand, which is the US brand of Ristacker. We said, no, we prefer Kalmar, which is made in Europe. And they said, okay, no problem if you insist. But you must go and give the contract to an American company to procure it for you from Europe and deliver to Nigeria. So for them, therefore, the idea is if we give you a loan, a substantial value of it must drop inside America's economy. So now, that is the idea behind Made in Nigeria. And I said, for the other plank of production, let's copy India. We call it make. They call it make in India. I said we should now call it make in Nigeria. That means we make Nigeria conducive as an environment for manufacturing. Now, if you take India today, where India is, India this year will likely grow its economy by between 7 and 8%. That's the GDP. And that's the new place everyone is looking to as the impetus for global economic growth. Not only because of its population, but because of many things they've done right to make India a conducive place to manufacture for the rest of the world. So that means that if we change that, government must demonstrate leadership in buying what is made in Nigeria. And then we citizens will now follow suit. I would prefer to be dressed like my brother here, okay? But I thought as keynote speaker this morning, it's better for me to appear, British. Thank you, sir. All right? So now on T-bills, if you look historically, the T-bill rate used to be indexed to the monetary policy rate. In fact, we go before MPR, we used to call it the minimum discount rate. Before Soludo became governor and renamed it as monetary policy rate. That era, it used to be indexed to treasury bill rate. In which case, treasury bill rate was usually 1 percentage point less than MPR. That was the pattern we had historically. But the full decoupling of treasury bill rate from MPR happened during Emefiele's time. So for me, when CBN did that, I just told myself that what CBN has done now is to now couple treasury bill rate with the MPR. So although they have not announced that, but that is my own interpretation as an analyst, with the sense of history. So the idea then is that they brought up treasury bill as an instrument that if you invest in it, the differential, that's the negative interest rate implied, by that compared to inflation rate, will not be that significant. So that is the way I interpret it. But they still need to come out and now tell us, maybe when they hold the MPC towards the end of this month, maybe they will now tell us that that is what they have actually done. That is an important thing in signaling, but that's what it's supposed to do. Now, I think I've addressed the 3 issues. I think so. Yeah, thank you so very much.
Let me just respond to the comment from the investor on what you need to invest in real estate in Nigeria. In addition to what Mr. Oginiran just mentioned, obviously due diligence is very important. You need to check the title. You need to check they have the right approval so that you don't get impacted by any disputes with the regulatory authorities. But from an investment side, you also need to look at your yields. You need to check what sort of rental income you're likely to generate on the asset to determine whether or not it's a suitably appropriate yield. You need to look at different locations to ensure that. Then you also need to look at the resale value as well. Capital appreciation is a major way of generating income from a real estate asset. So you need to know that when you exit your purchase, the return on investment is as high as one would predict. And to navigate this whole process, you need to use credible professionals. That's very important that you're getting the right advice for each location that you're thinking of investing in. From a developer perspective, you need to have the right partner, a credible and reputable partner. Not to be plugging UPDC, but UPDC has been in this market for over 25 years, and we have a track record in delivering each and every service. We have an advisory arm, we have a development arm, we have an FM arm, and we also have a REIT. So if you're interested in engaging with us to explain to you how you can benefit from this opportunity, please reach out to us. Thank you.
It's okay. So let me respond to the question on land as an asset class. I'll respond in two ways, as an investment and then as a store, as an asset class on the balance sheet itself. The land banking is a key part of property development. And the reason why you have to do that is because you have to use a concept called replacement cost pricing. If you are developing something, you have to think ahead and say, okay, when I'm selling this property, I must look at the value of the land, not what I bought it, but what I will replace it with. So when I was developing, one of the reasons why I was acquiring land was I was thinking along that lines, that if I'm developing 5 hectares, I must have another 5 hectares to replace it. And I don't wait until that time to replace it. I think forward and make arrangements in that situation. But as we are now, let's talk about now. We're in a highly inflationary environment. People are looking at the value of their assets that are collapsing every day, and they're thinking in terms of dollars. And what people do very quickly, the easiest way is, oh, let me take my money and buy dollar so I can store my value. But there's another way. You can buy low, sell high, but you can also sell high and buy back low. The thing is that if you instead of going into dollar, look at good quality assets and try and use your money now to buy real assets, because those assets are the components of those assets are the steel, the sand, the granite, cement, which the values are also going up commensurate. Steel is benchmarked against the dollar, and so more or less you're still buying dollar, but you're buying it in the form of an asset class. The genesis, maybe I'm going outside my realm here, but I don't see us having a dollar problem in Nigeria. I see us having a naira problem. When you have government printing too much naira without commensurate value coming to it, you have this kind of inflation and devaluation we're having. But in the real sense, sometimes having quantitative easing done the right way is okay, but we're not doing it the right way. We took our dollar subsidy and we gave it to the most unproductive side of the economy, which is the government sector, and instead of giving it to the private sector to invest. If that money could be used, as Doctor explained, to invest in locally produced, building capacity for locally produced products, then when people don't have a choice of, when the cost of imported goods are high, you now have a choice of buying locally produced products. But the minute you don't have locally produced products and you've not invested in building up that capacity, then everybody's forced to go and buy expensive products. So in our own business of real estate, the key to it is, as a private sector, to see how we can get locally produced inputs in our products. There's something I'm doing now, because when the cost of steel started going up, we saw this coming up a while ago. So we started going into pre-stressed steel, which basically reduces the amount of steel you need in your concrete. So instead of having in-situ concrete, we were doing precast concrete, which uses less kg of steel per cubic. And those type of technologies are things which should be driven by policy as well, but actually it is not. So we're having to almost explain to the regulatory authorities, to show them the specifications, to explain to them that, look, this is a better technology, this can work this way. But if we don't follow, we don't push innovation, we don't push technology, we will simply not get out of this mess we're in. So I hope I answered the question on how I came about building up a land bank for you. Yeah.
So the question of title comes into play because we have cases in courts where ABC have previous title to that land, and yet another village council will say they're the owners of the land. Here you have an expanse of land. And how do you succumb this order when you're trying to sell after you have acquired? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. I think there's actually no problem about land title in Lagos. A lot of these problems you have is just pure mischief, and where people are outrightly lying or defrauding people. But when it comes to survey, I mean, let's leave out legal title now. Let's talk about survey. A piece of land, once you survey it, even whether you surveyed it 1,000 years ago and you know your beacon points, it doesn't change. And yeah, your coordinates. And even if I have 3 pieces of land, every land is neighboring another land. So imagine you have a 4-corner property. The corner of the left side is the corner of the right side. So if you have a piece of land that, even if I don't know the one in the middle, once I know the one on the right, I know the one on the left, I can determine what's in there. So a lot of what you find in court is just pure mischief. Once you go to the survey department and you do composites and you do historical composites showing how the history of the land starts, okay, no problem. I understand you bought in 2010, but let's go to 1970 and let's start from the history there. Then 71, 72, 73, and then you suddenly see a jump. You say, alchemy in place.
All right. Thank you so much. Let's put our hands together for all our panelists and everyone. Thank you so much for all the wealth of knowledge that has been transferred this morning/afternoon. Thank you so much. Let's put our hands together as we then obviously would ask that probably we'll just take a quick picture with the panel, just a quick picture. I'd like to invite the president and other members of EXCO. Let's take a quick picture, then we'll go to a few more sponsor adverts as we wrap up. Yes, EXCO and the president, please. Let's just quickly take a picture with the panel. All right, thank you. We'll still take, there'll be a proper photography session. I just wanted to quickly do this while we have the panel on. As we wrap up with today's event, we'll take a few more adverts from a few more of our sponsors. We have one from UPDC, from Landmark and NMRC, after which we'll then invite the Vice Chairman of the Real Estate Committee, that's in the person of Ms. Tosia just said, to give us the vote of thanks. So very quickly, the videos from NMRC, Landmark, and UPDC.
Ever wondered about NMRC and how refinancing works? At the Nigeria Mortgage Refinance Company, NMRC, we understand that every family has a dream to live in their own home. We also recognize that this aspiration can be costly, particularly for those that work and live in Nigeria's city centers and suburbs. A reliable and convenient option when buying a home is to get housing loans from banks. Before the emergence of NMRC, most banks depended on their short-term deposits for their mortgage lending activities. Due to the short-term nature of these loans, the monthly payments were high, with short average tenors of 5 years for mortgage loans. The NMRC was established to rectify this situation by providing long-term loans and supporting the liquidity of mortgage lenders in Nigeria through mortgage refinance. And this is how it works. Let's say you are ready to buy a home and you applied to a mortgage lending bank for a loan. If you meet the loan requirements, the bank will approve your mortgage loan application. Once you buy a home, The mortgage bank can either hold the loan on its books till you're done paying back, or the bank can sell it in the secondary mortgage market. This is where NMRC comes in. NMRC purchases loans that mortgage lending banks create after a performance period that evaluates the applicant's loan repayment patterns for risk and suitability. NMRC issues securities that are backed by these mortgages and sells the same to capital market investors. By doing this, NMRC ensures mortgage lenders have access to more funds, create new mortgages, and increase lending to new borrowers. NMRC keeps long-term funding flowing and available by linking the housing market to the capital market. Through mortgage refinance, NMRC gives mortgage applicants access to longer tenured loans, and this helps to make home ownership more affordable for the average household. So, explore the option to refinance your mortgage today.
Imagine waking up to commanding views of the Atlantic Ocean and Lagos skyline every day. Introducing the landmark Waterview Apartments, a high-rise residential development at the heart of Africa's fastest-growing business, leisure, and lifestyle destination, Landmark Lagos. The Landmark Waterview Apartments gives you the opportunity to live, work, and play all in one location. Landmark Waterview Apartments includes amenities like 2 recreational floors, ocean and city views, kids play area, games room, spa, outdoor lounge, smart home system, world-class restaurants, and a gym. As a resident of the Landmark Waterview Apartments, you get unprecedented access to world-class amenities like VIP membership at the Landmark Beach, easy access to leisure and family entertainment centers, discount on world-class restaurants and vendors within the ecosystem, recreational services within the Landmark ecosystem, and discounted use of event spaces and venues, and exclusive access to Landmark ecosystem events. Invest in a Landmark Waterview apartment today. Please contact us using the code WV003 for special rewards.
Nbcc PLC is the most experienced real estate developer in Nigeria, and we keep our promise of delivering high quality products and services to our numerous stakeholders. And this is why we are very happy to bring to you the Hampshire development, which embodies the ethos and vision of UPDC.
The Hampshire, developed by UPDC, a publicly listed company that you can trust.
The estate comprises of collections of exclusive residential and commercial service plots ranging from 300 square meters to 2,476 square meters.
Worried about the facilities? Well, UPDC PLC got this. We do not slack on that.
You're going to be having the facility management office, good road network, drainage, sewage, water treatment, children playground, and street lighting.
In terms of price, we have beaten it. We got it right. It is the best edge against inflation in this day and time.
If your home idea is lifestyle and luxury living, affordable and proximity to amenities, then the Hampshire Shangotedo, developed by UPDC PLC, is your surest plot.
Our short to medium-term strategy is to develop middle-income, non-speculative site and service infrastructure projects. The Hampshire is the latest addition to our portfolio. It will set a new benchmark for urban living in the city and create the new standards for middle-income housing in Songotedo.
Over the past couple of months, we've worked with the consultant team to turn the vision into a reality. We've also worked on getting our statutory permits, and we look to move to site by mid-November 2023 and deliver the final product by February 2025.
Let's put our hands together for all our sponsors. Thank you so much. Very quickly as we wrap up, let's please join me to welcome Ms. Tosia Jose, Vice Chairman of the Construction and Real Estate Group of the Nbcc, as she gives the vote of thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the leadership of the chambers and the construction and real estate group, we'd like to thank very specially our special guest of honor, Barrister Barakat Odunuga Bakari, the special advisor to the executive governor of Lagos State. We'd also like to thank all our amazing speakers, Dr. Biodo Adedikpe, Mr. Yemi Dowu, Paul Owonibe, and Ms. Bidemi Fadayomi. Thank you very much. We also like to thank our patrons and council members, our partner and sponsor organizations. Thank you very much. The Refined Homes, NMRC, UPDC, LBIC, Knight Frank, Aircom Nigeria, AfriLand, and of course, the Landmark Group. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a privilege for you to have spent the early part of your morning with us. Thank you so very much. And finally, we'd like to thank every member of the construction and real estate group that supported us to make this program a huge success. Before I drop the microphone, I'll just go through a few announcements on some of the upcoming events that we have in the chambers over the next couple of months. So first, we have our Next Generation series event themed Transforming a Manufacturing Business. For those of you that are in the business of manufacturing, we already heard a lot about that during today's session. This is scheduled to hold on Thursday, February 15th, 2024. It's sometime later this week. I've seen the lineup of guests and I think it's a must attend. We also have our Nbcc Trade Seminar that is scheduled for Tuesday, February 20th, 2024. The theme is Navigating Trade Regulations and Compliance between Nigeria and the United Kingdom. Please get on our website to register for that event. We would also have adverts running on our social media handles. Our 2024 trade mission to the United Kingdom is scheduled for May 2024. You can get more information on that from the chambers before you leave. We also have the NBCC Health Work scheduled for the 2nd of March 2024. The theme is Healthy Strides for Business Wellness. Also, we have the NBCC International Women's Day event that is scheduled to hold on the 6th to 8th of March this year. The theme is Investing in Women, Accelerate Progress. Please register on our website and on all social media handles for that one. That's for the women in the house. We also have the NBCC Members Evening and Induction Ceremony coming up on March the 21st of this year. Please join us. We'd like to welcome you for that event again. And we also like to remind you that the Plaza is open for business. We have our state-of-art facilities that you can explore for your corporate events, training, seminars, and meetings at affordable rates. Please do check this out if you have events and you would love to host them at our facility here. And finally, at this point, we should have a QR code up on the screen that you can scan to give us feedback on today's event. We'd love to get your feedback because it helps us to improve. And finally, if you are interested in being a member of the chambers, please visit our website at www.nbcc.org.ng or meet up with any member of the membership team at the registration desk downstairs. We are social. Please follow us on all our social media handles to get more information about the chambers and our events. We are on Instagram on NBCC_NG. We are on LinkedIn at Nigeria-British Chamber of Commerce. And finally, we are on Facebook at Nigerian-British Chamber of Commerce on Facebook. Thank you very much for spending the early part of your day with us, and we wish you all the very best for the rest of the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's put our hands together once again for our Vice Chairman. Thank you so much. I know we've spent quite a bit of time together, and very quickly we'll be moving for lunch. We'll request, yes, the Chairman to please come forward, and we'll be giving gifts to our lead speaker as well as our other speakers, moderators.
guest speaker.
Yes, All right, next will be the chairman and other speakers and the moderator. So all the other speakers, please join us. So we can start with the moderator since she's here. We can start with the moderator since she's here. Okay. All right. No, that's all. That's all. Okay. Yes, with all the speakers. And then after that, please, we'll take pictures with all the sponsors, representatives from all the sponsors. Pictures with all the speakers, then after that, pictures with all the sponsors. Thank you. Please, picture with all our sponsors, representatives of all our sponsors, UPDC, NMRC, Knight Frank, Refine Homes, LBIC, FIABCI, Landmark, Afriland, everyone please. Immediately after this, please, we'll take a picture with all. Okay, please. Still our sponsors. All right. Okay, we still have someone. All right, great. Finally, thank you so much. Finally, members of the CRE committee and members of the Nbcc team. So members of the CRE committee and members of the Nbcc team. And please, let's be informed that there's lunch. So please don't rush off. There's lunch. Please try to grab some lunch just before you head off.